Chapter 1106. Yun Jian suddenly recalled the time when she had entered Baiguang Model Agency to save Chen Sini. Chen Sini had been lying helplessly on the ground, staring at one spot with a hopeless expression. Her wrist had been cut, and fresh blood was flowing out. It was a ghastly sight, but it was so tenacious that it made one feel sorry for her. Li Hang was also an actor from Baiguang Model Agency. Because Baiguang Model Agency had offended Yun Jian back then, Baiguang Model Agency had closed down. Li Hang's contract with Baiguang Model Agency had naturally been terminated midway. And for a big star like Li Hang, without Baiguang Model Agency, he was immediately poached by another entertainment company. His current resources were even better than when he was at Baiguang Model Agency. But at the end of the day, Li Hang was an actor from Baiguang Model Agency. So when she saw Li Hang, Yun Jian felt like she was looking at Chen Sini, who was lying in a pool of blood back then. It felt as if Li Hang was also the mastermind behind Chen Sini's incident. At this moment, Yun Jian had the urge to make Li Hang bleed to death in front of her. Of course, if Li Hang had obediently stepped aside today, Yun Jian naturally wouldn't have done anything to him. But unfortunately, Li Hang was unwilling to let go now even if he was beaten to death. The only figure that had appeared in his mind for the past few months was her. The feeling of not being able to find the person he was looking for in the vast world drove Li Hang crazy. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the surrounding fans were stunned. If it had been any other fan present who had received such attention from Li Hang, they would have probably fainted from excitement. But what about Yun Jian? Not only was she not flattered, but she even said such things to the big star Li Hang. Li Hang himself was also taken aback, but he quickly recovered his senses. He thought that Yun Jian was joking with him, so Li Hang smiled and pretended to be very gentle to Yun Jian. "Beauty, your words don't match your looks. You're pretty, so this kind of joke doesn't match you." As Li Hang spoke, he shook his head again, pretending to be very handsome. Just as he finished speaking, Yun Jian's cold voice rang in his ears again. "You don't believe me, do you?" As soon as Yun Jian's words rang out, Li Hang felt a ruthless force flying toward him. In the next second, everyone saw Yun Jian stretch out her leg and kick Li Hang in the abdomen, knocking him to the ground. At the same time, her figure flashed and she followed closely behind, stomping her foot hard on Li Hang's abdomen. "Ah! My Hung Hung!" Seeing their idol being stepped on by Yun Jian, the fans began to scream and tried to rush over. But just as the fans rushed over, they were shocked by the shiny thing in Yun Jian's hand and stopped in their tracks. He saw that Yun Jian was holding a butterfly knife that had appeared out of nowhere and was casually swinging it twice. These fans were all frightened and stopped in their tracks. "You! How dare you do this to my Hung Hung?" Li Hang's female manager was shocked. She was about to stand up and threaten Yun Jian. Before she could threaten her, Yun Jian chuckled. "Why wouldn't I dare?" As she spoke, she swung the butterfly knife, and the blade of the butterfly knife ruthlessly cut Li Hang's wrist. The cut was very deep, and blood gushed out. At the same time, she raised her foot, moved it from Li Hang's abdomen to the wound on his wrist, and stomped down hard. Li Hang was in so much pain that he rolled around. Seeing the blood in Li Hang's body spurting out of his wrist, everyone present turned pale with fright. Li Hang's bodyguards wanted to stop her. Chapter 1107. If Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by everyone present at the beginning, then Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by Li Hang, but Yun Jian had acted out her words. From this point alone, everyone present no longer dared to doubt Yun Jian. What a joke. Just now, they had thought that this girl looked sweet, and that her harsh words just now must have been a joke. But in the end? Not only did she tell the superstar Li Hang to get lost, but Li Hang refused. She actually took out a knife from her pocket and cut Li Hang's wrist. That wasn't all. She even stepped on Li Hang's wrist. Oh my God, this could kill someone. Wasn't she afraid that someone would die? And the person being stepped on was the superstar Li Hang. Everyone present was scared silly. Even the bodyguards and his female manager who were supposed to rush up to protect Li Hang stood rooted to the ground in a daze. They were so overwhelmed by Yunjian's aura that they didn't dare to move. Feeling that the blood in his body was flowing out at a rapid rate, and that no one around him dared to come and save him, Li Heng was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He was interested in Yunjian, and this was purely on the premise that his safety could be guaranteed. But now, his safety couldn't even be guaranteed. Li Heng was extremely regretful now. He didn't expect Yunjian to be so fierce. Last time, Ce had broken his wrist, which had scared Li Heng to the core. But this time? He originally thought that Yunjian would be easier to deal with because she was a girl. But who would have thought that she was even more ruthless than Ce? This attack was meant to take his life. If the blood in his body ran out, even a god wouldn't be able to save him. I was wrong. Please let me go. Let me go. It's my fault. I'm a pig. I didn't know what was good for me and wanted to hit on you. Feeling the blood in his body flowing out rapidly, Li Heng was scared. He couldn't care about anything else. He just wanted to live. So, regardless of how many reporters and fans were still looking at him, Li Heng begged Yunjian for mercy in a cowardly tone. Seeing Li Heng beg Yunjian for mercy in such a cowardly tone, the surrounding fans, including the female agent and the bodyguards, were all stunned. Li Heng had a handsome face, and later became famous because he played a rather handsome role in a movie. He had always been sought after by fans. But now, where did the handsome man in the movie go? Everyone present suffered a heavy blow. Yunjian raised her eyebrows. She was not surprised at all. After hearing Li Heng's pleas for mercy, just as Li Heng was about to faint from excessive blood loss, Yunjian released her foot from Li Heng's wrist. He left behind a sentence that made Li Heng tremble with fear. The next time I see you, I won't be wiping your wrist, but your throat. Yunjian didn't hold back at all, so everyone present was dumbfounded as they watched Yunjian leave. Yunjian left quickly. Li Heng had not fainted yet. He was carefully helped up by his female agent. From now on, Li Heng's image in the hearts of his fans would definitely take a hit. Just as Li Heng was helped up and was about to be sent to the hospital, one of the onlookers suddenly recalled something. Looking at Yunjian's disappearing back, he exclaimed in shock, "That's right. I remember now. She was the young lady who snatched the saber and killed the thugs when the mall was invaded by a few robbers half a year ago, causing a stir in Longmen City." Chapter 1108. When the person recounted how Yunjian had killed the thugs, his voice trembled. Therefore, when these words were heard by everyone present, it was as if their hair stood on end and they were horrified. That young lady just now was the one who caused a commotion in Longmen City half a year ago? Someone asked loudly with his mouth agape. The person who had just spoken of this matter immediately agreed with him. It's true. I was at the scene when the thugs charged at us. You guys didn't see it, so you don't know. There was a woman who threw the young lady's mother to the thugs. Hey, guess what happened? The young lady was fighting with another thug, but when she saw that her mother was in danger, she killed the thug and blocked the knife that was coming at her mother with her hand. Tsk. That tender hand was cut and blood was still dripping. She didn't even blink. She was like an assassin agent who wasn't afraid of pain at all. She rushed up and killed all the other gangsters. She really scared us out of our wits. That ruthlessness didn't seem like a teenage girl at all. When the person saw that everyone was listening to him, even the celebrity, Li Heng, was looking at him, he spoke more enthusiastically. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard what the person said. No wonder Yunjian said what she did just now. No wonder she dared to hurt Li Heng. Why would she be afraid of him when she could even kill someone? Li Heng felt a shudder run through him. The female manager beside him had already covered the wound on his wrist. The blood had stopped flowing. Once he thought of Yunjian's ruthlessness just now, he felt a chill run down his spine. She had actually killed someone. She actually knew how to kill. Li Heng was suddenly glad that Yunjian had let him go just now. Li Heng had just calmed down a little when someone else seized the opportunity to bring up the matter again. Since he was aware of it himself, he continued. My dad has a friend who works in the police station. The incident back then was a big deal. I heard that the young lady has some status in the military. She seems to be a special forces soldier. Her specific identity is kept secret by the higher-ups, so she can be considered to have acted impartially by killing him. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was completely dumbfounded. Was that little girl from the military? At such a young age, he was actually a soldier. If those present knew that Yun Jian was the famous slashing god from Team Monarch, they would probably have gone crazy and chased after Yun Jian for her autograph. The celebrity Li Hang was well known, but in Longmen City, Yun Jian's Team Monarch slashing god was even more famous than celebrities in the entertainment industry. She was really good at it. At the same time, Yun Jian, who was capable of real combat, had returned home, a home that belonged to her and Ce. It was only a 3-minute walk from here to Gu Yunjian's house. Although this place was secretly built by Ce behind Yun Jian's back, Gu Junjian knew about it right from the start. Considering that Yun Jian did not want to be too far away from Qin Yiru, Ce had discussed with Gu Junjian when he built this place and even got Gu Junjian to give up an empty plot of land in his villa. From here to Gu Yunjian's house, one could take a shortcut to Gu Yunjian's villa through the side door. It was also due to Gu Yunjian's strong support that Ce could build his and Yun Jian's villa not far away from Gu Yunjian's house. It was convenient to walk there as well. Yun Jian put down her bag. Ce was not at home at the moment, so she went to Gu Yunjian's house. Just as she reached Gu Yunjian's house, she saw Qin Yiru doing chores inside. Qin Yiru was stunned when she saw Yun Jian before asking, "Didn't Ae come back with you?" Chapter 1109. Yun Jian could not help twitching the corners of her lips at Qin Yiru's words. She was her biological daughter, right? Why was Qin Yiru nagging about Ce instead of worrying about her when she stepped into the house? He's gone out, Yun Jian said after a pause despite what she thought. I see. Qin Yiru did not stop mopping the floor. It had been a while since they got married. Gu Xian had gone back to school overseas after the wedding. Now that Qin Yiru was nourished by love, her complexion were much better than before. Xiao Jian, dinner's ready. Let's wait for Ae to come home before we eat, Qin Yiru said as she came over after mopping the floor and wiping her wet hands. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Xiao Yunju and the others were playing upstairs, so Qin Yiru had nothing to do after mopping the floor. Hence, she went to Yun Jian. Hey, Xiao Jian, how's Ae getting along with you now? Qin Yiru asked as she held Yun Jian's hand. It's pretty good, Yun Jian answered after a pause. It was almost 3 days before the middle school exams, but Qin Yiru was not like other mothers who were worried about Yun Jian's results. On the contrary, she did not mention anything about the results. Ae is someone worth trusting. You can hold on to him tightly. Don't let him run away. Qin Yiru said earnestly and looked at Yun Jian with a gaze that she had never shown before. Yun Jian was a little stunned by Qin Yiru's stare. Mom, I know, Yun Jian replied. Ae's already 20. He's a man, so there's always a need for puberty. Xiao Jian, don't throw a tantrum. I think Ae's a good kid, even if, anyway, the two of you are going to be married in the future. If there's anything before marriage, it's fine, as long as you take proper protective measures, it will be fine. It's fine if she gets pregnant. After she gives birth, I'll have nothing to do. It'll be more fun raising a child. Qin Yiru thought that Ce had already slept with Yun Jian, and now Yun Jian was living under the same roof as Ce. There were only the two of them in the house. Of course, Qin Yiru knew Ce's character, so she said those words. It could be said that Qin Yiru already treated Ce as her son-in-law. In spite of it, Yun Jian's cheeks were as red as an apple when she heard Qin Yiru's words. She did not expect Qin Yiru to say something like that to her. Yun Jian could kill without batting an eyelid and be fearless in the face of danger. Yet, she blushed when she heard such things. When Qin Yiru saw that Yunjian did not say anything, she spoke even more enthusiastically. It was only when Ce entered the house that Qin Yiru stopped talking. Gu Junjian was busy with military matters now, so sometimes he did not even come home. Qin Yiru could understand that. Qin Yiru stopped talking when she saw Ce. Then, Qin Yiru called Xiao Yunju and the others down to have dinner around the table. Before returning to her and Ce's private villa, Qin Yiru mysteriously called Ce out for a few minutes. She did not allow Yunjian to listen in. When they returned to her and Ce's home, Yunjian turned to look at Ce and asked, "What did my mom say to you just now? Do you want to know?" Ce curled his handsome lips mysteriously and said. Yunjian nodded her head. Just as she nodded, Ce pulled her into his embrace. Then, he turned sideways and whispered something into Yunjian's ear. Yunjian's face instantly turned red when she heard this. Chapter 11:10. When you do it, make sure it's dirty. Yunjian blushed at what Qin Yiru said to Ce. Ce smiled at the sight before cupping Yunjian's cheeks and kissing her. Ce only gave Yunjian a peck. He did not do anything else. His Xiao Jian was still young. 3 days passed in a flash and the senior high school entrance exam came as promised. The day of the senior high school entrance exam was unusually hot, probably the hottest day since the new year. In spite of it, the students persevered through the 3 days of senior high school entrance exam. Yunjian was always the first to finish the senior high school entrance exam. The other students were afraid that they would perform poorly during the exam, so they checked their papers multiple times. What about Yunjian? She did not even have to check her papers after she was done. Just as the 3 days of exams ended, Chen Sini, Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Zhang Jian could finally relax from their hard work. Once the exams were over, the students packed up all their belongings in school and brought them home. The end of the senior high school entrance exam meant that Yunjian and the others had their break 2 weeks earlier than their usual summer break. Of course, they still had to make a trip back to school when the results of the senior high school entrance exam were released. Their classmates were about to enter different senior high schools. It was their parents who came to school to help carry the huge pile of textbooks. On the day after school ended, Ce drove over to help Yunjian. Ce returned to an Hun group the next day. Taking advantage of the break, Yunjian carried a small travel bag with a lot of things and left for Min City early in the morning. Yunjian went alone. Of course, she was going to Min City purely because she had promised Chu Ning and the others that she would go for a vacation. Since the summer break was not here yet, Yunjian had her break 2 weeks earlier than usual, so Chu Ning and the others were still in school. When Yunjian arrived, she directly called Xu Xiangnan, who had a mobile phone. Chu Ning and the others were still in class. When they heard that Yunjian was coming over, they immediately sent Chu Ning to the entrance of the military academy to pick up Yunjian. Originally, outsiders were not allowed to enter the military academy, but Chu Ning had talked to the guard for a long time. In the end, when the guard found out that Yunjian was part of the next batch of students to be admitted, he finally let her in. Phew, I finally brought you in. Chu Ning wiped the sweat off her forehead and led Yunjian to the military academy's training field. The other 5 members of Team Monarch were training on the field. Hearing Chu Ning's words, Yunjian stared at Chu Ning for a few seconds, then pulled away the red arc inside. You've gotten darker. Chu Ning was stunned for a moment before she realized that Yunjian was talking about her. She even patted Yunjian on the shoulder and said with a laugh, "Don't say it out loud." Then, Chu Ning brought Yunjian to the field. After meeting up with the other members of Team Monarch, the group sat on the field that stretched as far as the eye could see, basking in the scorching sun. We don't have classes at night. Yunjian, where do you want to go? Do you want to walk around the streets of Min City? Or do you want to walk around our school first? Chu Xiangnan said with a laugh. Don't interrupt. Silly Chu Xiangnan. Chu Ning snickered at Chu Xiangnan. That was the new nickname she came up with for Chu Xiangnan, Chu Nan. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled. Just as the group of people were laughing and making a ruckus, a sarcastic voice came from behind them. Yo, isn't this our famous Team Monarch? Haha. Where did this little beauty come from? Hearing that, Yunjian turned around with Chu Ning and the others to see a ruffian boy taunting Chu Ning and the others while trying to flirt with Yunjian. Chapter 11:11. This ruffian was the guy from the invincible gang whom Chu Ning and the others had mentioned to Yunjian when they returned to Xinjiang town. The guy was just an errand boy for the invincible gang named Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei and everyone in the invincible gang were proud to be a part of the gang. That was because the invincible gang had a super powerful existence. Chu Ning had mentioned this super powerful person to Yunjian before. She said that Chu Ning and the others were no match for that super powerful person even when they teamed up. Other than Jiang Weiwei, everyone else was defeated. Even Jiang Weiwei was almost injured. One had to know that Jiang Weiwei was not weak. She was ranked second in Team Monarch in terms of strength. However, even when she and Chu Ning and the others teamed up, they could not defeat that person from the invincible gang. One could only imagine how powerful that person was. It was precisely because they had such a powerful member who could wipe out Team Monarch, a team that was rumored to be so amazing, that the invincible gang could be so fearless. Take Peng Jingwei for example. He was just an errand boy for the invincible gang, but he dared to speak to Chu Ning and the others in such a tone. It was all because the invincible gang had that person who defeated Chu Ning and the others alone. The invincible gang was extremely smug now. Peng Jingwei was indeed arrogant. He thought that the invincible gang was really invincible. Therefore, when he saw the Team Monarch members sitting on the field, he could not help but want to rush over and taunt them. However, he did not expect to see Yunjian among the Team Monarch members. Peng Jingwei was stunned. There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. Moreover, she was different from those girls and women who relied on makeup and fashionable clothes on the streets. Yunjian's beauty was pure and natural. Peng Jingwei was completely mesmerized. That was why he leaned over to hit on her. Logically speaking, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning should have hurled insults at him on the spot. However, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning snorted. Pfft! Chu Ning burst out laughing. Of all people, Peng Jingwei had to say that Team Monarch was trash to Yunjian? It was as if he was telling the strongest boss of Team Monarch that his team was trash and that he should leave with him. After laughing, Chu Ning pursed her lips and turned to Yunjian. After a while, she said, "Ignore him. He's trash himself." Chu Ning and the others were used to the invincible gang's mockery. They couldn't be bothered with the people from the invincible gang now. In private, they trained as hard as they could in order to improve their skills so that they could defeat the people from the invincible gang. Just as Chu Ning finished speaking and Yunjian ignored him, Peng Jingwei panicked. "Heh, I say, your Team Monarch is so trashy. Don't bring the beauty with you guys," Peng Jingwei said as he turned his sly gaze to Yunjian. "Little beauty, aren't you blind to be with trash like Team Monarch when you're so pretty? Come with me. I'm from the invincible gang. It's the best team in our military school. Hey, what do you think?" Peng Jingwei said. He even wanted to reach out his hand that was as ugly as a black man's to hold Yunjian's hand. Yunjian frowned in disgust. She sat on the grass and did a light flip to avoid Peng Jingwei's hand. Under Peng Jingwei's watchful gaze, she stood up and sneered. "If my Team Monarch is trash, your invincible gang is worse than trash." Peng Jingwei shuddered at the mention of Team Monarch. What did she say? Chapter 11:12. She's from Team Monarch? Peng Jingwei's eyes widened in shock. There were 7 members in Team Monarch and Chu Ning and the other 5 were already enrolled in the military academy. Due to his frequent encounters with Chu Ning and the other 5, Peng Jingwei had completely overlooked the fact that Team Monarch had a powerful slashing god. In Peng Jingwei's subconscious mind, there were only 6 members in Team Monarch, and these 6 were the ones who had been beaten to a pulp by the Invincible Gang's leader. With Yun Jian's appearance today, Peng Jingwei had assumed that she was one of the Team Monarch's relatives who had come to Min City for a vacation after the midterms. That was why he had said what he had said earlier. Who would have thought that Yun Jian would say something like Team Monarch? If she was from Team Monarch, could she be the most powerful slashing god in Team Monarch? With her frail and weak body? Pfft. Did you hear that? Don't compare Team Monarch with your trashy Invincible Gang. Heh, Invincible Gang, what a country bumpkin name. Get the hell away from me as soon as possible. What's there to be smug about? Chu Ning patted her butt to get rid of the grass that stuck to her pants on the lawn. She stood up and walked to Yun Jian's side to wrap her arm around Yun Jian's shoulder as she sneered at Peng Jingwei. One could lose in terms of strength but not in terms of confidence. This sentence was verified by Chu Ning. Chu Ning's words were bold. Just as Chu Ning finished her sentence, Chu Xiangnan, who was sitting on the ground, stood up and walked to Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei was a grown man with a height of only 1.6 meters. Chu Xiangnan's height was enough to look down on him. Get lost, UF***ker. What bullsh** T Invincible Gang? I think you should just change your name to Trash Gang. Chu Xiangnan continued Chu Ning's words and yelled at Peng Jingwei. As he yelled, Chu Xiangnan even clenched his fist at Peng Jingwei, his knuckles cracking. Seeing Chu Xiangnan gesturing at him like that, Peng Jingwei gulped in fright. The only reason he could be so smug was because he was a member of the Invincible Gang. Peng Jingwei himself was not that capable. Therefore, when Chu Xiangnan gestured at him, he was so scared that he took 3 steps back. Then, he pointed at Chu Xiangnan and the others and threatened them in an exaggerated tone, you wait. After saying that, Peng Jingwei was so scared that he turned and ran away. Haha. You're such a coward. Perhaps it was because Yun Jian and all 7 members of Team Monarch were present, but Chu Xiangnan felt much more confident. He laughed out loud when he saw Peng Jingwei running away. Chu Xiangnan even flashed his middle finger at the spot where Peng Jingwei had fallen. After that, he turned to look at Yun Jian. He patted his chest with a laugh and asked, "What do you think, Yun Jian? Was I particularly domineering just now?" When Chu Ning heard that, she also rushed to say, "He's not as good as me." Then, the two of them stared at Yun Jian's glittering eyes, waiting for her comment. However, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She curled her lips slightly, then calmly said, "Very naughty." After hearing Yun Jian's comment, Jiang Weiwei laughed out loud. Apart from Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan's group of clowns, the others laughed. At the side of a small path near a small forest in the school, a group of youthful boys and girls were standing there. All of them sat obediently on the grass, talking to a girl who was standing high above. It felt like a group of gang members were having a gathering. Suddenly, a figure rushed over recklessly. Chapter 11:13. Peng Jingwei paused when he heard the girl's low growl. Then, he slowly walked over. It was obvious that this girl held a high position in the Invincible Gang. "Miss Chi Si, I saw something incredible just now, so I wanted to come back quickly to report it to you. That's why I left so quickly," Peng Jingwei said. Just as he said this, the girl called Chi Si interrupted him. All right. Hurry up and say it. What incredible thing?" This girl was called Gu Chi Si. She was the only daughter of the big boss of Min City's coal industry. She was a well-known figure in the military academy. This identity, coupled with her innate arrogance, made everyone present dare not speak up even if they were angry. They could only submit to her. At the same time, the reason why everyone present listened to this girl was purely because Gu Chi Si was not only the vice president of the Invincible Gang, but more importantly, she was also the younger sister of the Invincible Gang's president. Of course, Gu Chi Si was not the biological sister of the Invincible Gang's president, but the daughter of the Invincible Gang's president's family. To put it bluntly, she was the daughter of her father's business friend. As for the president of the Invincible Gang, he was also the strongest president of the Invincible Gang that Chu Ning said had defeated Chu Ning and 6 others single-handedly. His name was Duan Xinchen. Now, the Invincible Gang still looked like a proper gang, like a cult. Everyone in the Invincible Gang sat on the lawn, listening to the Vice President Gu Qi-Si's teachings. After being interrupted by Gu Qi-Si, Peng Jingwei hurriedly told her what had happened. Initially, when he mentioned Yun Jian, Peng Jingwei did not think that she was the killing god of Team Monarch. When Gu Qi-Si and the rest of the Invincible Gang heard Peng Jingwei's words, they did not think that Yun Jian had anything to do with Team Monarch. However, when he mentioned Yun Jian's appearance, Peng Jingwei even made a very righteous comparison. That beauty, TSK, I've never seen such a beautiful girl in my life. As he said that, Peng Jingwei was intoxicated. Hearing this, Gu Qi-Si was a girl herself. She was very dissatisfied and asked with a hint of jealousy, "Is she really that beautiful? What about me?" It was just a casual remark, but he did not expect Peng Jingwei to recall Yun Jian's beauty the moment he opened his mouth. He could not help but blurt out, "They're not on the same level. Her beauty is really..." Before he could finish, Gu Qi-Si kicked Peng Jingwei away. Fuming, she led a group of people to Yun Jian's side, grumbling angrily, "What the hell? I want to see just how beautiful she is." Yun Jian had no idea that someone was leading dozens of people and was angrily rushing towards her. As it turned out, a girl's jealousy was terrifying. This was especially true for girls who were in puberty. They could develop to the point of no return just because of a small matter. At this moment, Yun Jian had already followed Chu Ning and the others to the military academy's canteen. It was already noon, time for lunch. In high school, one could order their own food and pay by swiping their card. Yun Jian was a guest, so of course, Chu Ning and the others fought to treat her. Looking at the big lunch box that Chu Ning had ordered for her, consisting of 4 to 5 servings of meat and 2 to 3 servings of vegetarian food, Yun Jian paused. For ordinary students, they would order at most 1 meat and 1 vegetarian dish. "Hee, let's eat." Chu Ning extended her chopsticks and called out. Then, she dug into the food in her lunch box. During lunch, Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan kept talking to Yun Jian about the Invincible Gang. "Yun Jian, you don't know this, but the Invincible Gang formed this gang because of us, Team Monarch." They didn't have a gang name at first. In the end, because Team Monarch had a name, they followed suit. Chapter 11:14. Chu Ning said with great interest. She even laughed a few times as she spoke. The Invincible Gang did not form a gang. When Chu Ning and the rest first entered the school, Gu Qi-Si's gang got into a fight with Chu Ning and the rest. They were even beaten up by Chu Ning and the rest. They thought that after being beaten up, Gu Qi-Si's gang would not dare to cause trouble again. Who would have thought that Gu Qi-Si would ask Duan Xinchen, a senior who was in his 2nd year and about to enter his 3rd year, to help? Duan Xinchen had been in the military school for almost 2 years. In addition, he was a martial artist who had been trained since he was young. It was said that he had learned martial arts from a martial arts master, so he was even more powerful. Chu Ning and the rest fought with Duan Xinchen openly and lost. In the end, the 6 of them were no match for Duan Xinchen. Since then, Gu Qi-Si's gang started to show off. With Gu Qi-Si as the leader, they started the current Invincible Gang. Gu Qi-Si even made Duan Xinchen the president of the Invincible Gang and recruited people from the military school. This was done in a hurry. However, Gu Qi-Si and the rest started the Invincible Gang purely because Chu Ning and the rest had a Team Monarch. They felt that Chu Ning and the rest had a team and that sounded cool, so they started a gang too. They're just following the trend and foolishly following us. They don't even know if they're authentic. Haha. Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan spoke one after another and recounted everything that had happened in the military school. Yun Jian, don't you think so? At the end of her story, Chu Ning looked at Yun Jian, who was sitting opposite her. She took a bite of lean meat and said with a grin. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled faintly. She indeed felt that what Chu Ning said about the invincible gang was a little funny. It felt like children playing house. However, after Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled faintly, she said, "Let's eat." She had just scooped up a mouthful of bean and was about to put it into her mouth when she suddenly raised her eyebrows. Bam! Bang! 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 The sound of tables and chairs being overturned came from behind. After a pause, an unpleasant female voice came from behind. "Did your team monarch bully our invincible gang's Peng Jingwei? Do you have a death wish? Do you think you haven't been beaten up enough by the invincible gang? If you want to cause trouble, you have to find a good reason." Gu Qixi took advantage of the fact that Peng Jingwei had been chased away by Chu Xiangnan to stir up trouble. Most of the students in the military academy were male, and all of them were quite strong. Therefore, when they saw Gu Qixi leading a group of people to surround the Team Monarch members, not only were they not afraid, but they even squeezed over, intending to watch the show. F***CK. When did we bully that guy? He was the one who didn't have eyes and rushed over to criticize my Yunjian. Chu Ning was angered by Gu Qizi's words and immediately slammed the table and stood up. "Team Monarch is just a loser to us. We don't need to F***CK with you." Gu Qixi heard Chu Ning's words. She could not see Yunjian's face, but she could see Yunjian's slender figure. Jealousy welled up in her and she could not help but open her mouth to spew hatefully. Just as Gu Qixi finished saying, "Team Monarch is a loser to us," Yunjian, who had her back to Gu Qixi, suddenly flung the spoon in her hand away and stood up abruptly. The metal spoon that Yunjian flung away flew not far away and actually pierced into the wooden dining table right under everyone's eyes. Pierced into the wood. The spoon actually pierced into the dining table with a fling. How strong was this girl's wrist? Everyone on the scene was shocked. However, Yunjian, who had her back to Gu Qixi, turned around slowly and met Gu Qixi's eyes with her slightly raised lips. She spoke in a strange female voice. Chapter 11:15. Yunjian's frivolous words and her strange moves gave everyone in the invincible gang, led by Gu Qizi, a fright, including the students having lunch in the canteen. Ever since Duan Qinshen from the invincible gang defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch and formed the current invincible gang, no one in the military academy dared to challenge the invincible gang. Duan Qinshen's battle could be said to have made a name for himself. Therefore, even if Duan Qinshen was not often in the invincible gang, the students in the military academy did not dare to provoke them. Yunjian's actions just now had shocked everyone, partly because of her strange moves, and partly because, why was this pretty girl so angry when she heard Gu Qixi say that Team Monarch was a defeated team? She was not even a member of Team Monarch, so why did she act as if she was? Yunjian, well said, we're on your side. Chu Ning shouted when she heard that. That's right. Chu Xiangnan and the other members of Team Monarch agreed. When Gu Qizi saw Yunjian's beautiful face, she was indeed filled with jealousy. Especially when she recalled what Peng Jingwei said just now, Gu Qizi had the urge to get rid of Yunjian. Therefore, Gu Qizi clenched her fists and glared at Yunjian. After 2 seconds of silence, she said angrily, "Ha, you're just bluffing." "Heh, it's just a bluff. Team Monarch is a loser. Everyone has seen it with their own eyes. Besides, you're an outsider. What right do you have to criticize us?" Gu Qizi wanted to curse Yunjian, but she held it in. She felt that compared to insulting Yunjian directly, it was more important to maintain her image as a lady. "You don't believe me, do you?" Yunjian crossed her arms. She lifted one leg and easily placed it on a table in the canteen. Then, she extended her slender index finger and hooked it at Gu Qizi. "Let's fight if you're not convinced. Today, I'll show you trash from the trash gang what it means to be defeated," Yunjian said, tilting her head. Her disdainful tone made Gu Qizi and the others' eyelids twitch. When Gu Qizi came back to her senses, she almost charged at Yunjian, wanting to tear Yunjian into pieces. What did she say? Did she say that the Invincible gang was trash? She even said that the Invincible gang was trash. Gu Chizi was shaking with rage. Unable to hold herself back, she was about to charge at Yun Jian when she was interrupted by Yun Jian. At the main entrance of the cafeteria, a well-proportioned and good-looking boy walked in with his back to Gu Chizi. This boy's looks were not bad, and his silhouette was quite handsome. However, when this young man of about 17 or 18 walked in, the surrounding girls screamed, "Duan Qinshen! Duan Duan Duan! Duan Duan Xian!" Duan Xian had a lot of support in the military academy. Ever since he defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, his reputation grew. When Gu Chizi heard that her savior had arrived, she quickly turned and ran to Duan Xian's side. Then, she reached out and grabbed Duan Xian's arm. She said coquettishly, "Brother Chen, someone bullied me." "It's her. It's her." Hearing Gu Chizi's voice, Duan Xian frowned and turned to look. He happened to see the girl standing in front with her arms crossed. His slightly furrowed brows suddenly loosened. The moment he saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Chapter 11:16. Duan Qinshen was a rather cold boy. He looked as if he did not care about anyone or anything. It was precisely because of his cold personality that Gu Chizi was so infatuated with him and liked him so much. Although Gu Chizi and Duan Qinshen's relationship was because their parents were best friends, and the two families were business partners who interacted with each other. However, just because Gu Chizi liked Duan Qinshen did not mean that Duan Qinshen liked Gu Chizi. On the contrary, Duan Qinshen was annoyed by Gu Chizi, but he did not say it out loud. The moment Duan Qinshen saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Yun Jian crossed her arms as she scanned Duan Qinshen. Her slightly curved lips, her fair and smooth skin that was as delicate as a newborn baby's, and her delicate and beautiful face. There was no man present who would not be attracted to Yun Jian. Especially in this military academy where there were more boys than girls, even an ugly girl would be worshipped to the heavens, let alone a delicate girl like Yun Jian. Gu Chizi saw Duan Qinshen sizing up Yun Jian and became even angrier. She forced herself to resist the urge to rush up and kill Yun Jian. She held Duan Qinshen's arm and shook it, then said in an even more coquettish tone, "Brother Duan Qinshen, you bullied your sister." "Brother Chen, she just bullied your little sister Chizi. Aren't you going to avenge her?" The moment Gu Chizi called her sister Chizi, everyone around them got goosebumps. Yun Jian also frowned subtly. "Pfft, who bullied who?" "Gu Chizi, don't be the first to complain." "TSK, how disgusting." Chu Ning retorted rudely. Just as Chu Ning finished speaking, Duan Qinshen let go of Gu Chizi's hand and walked over to Yun Jian. Seeing this, Gu Chizi smiled slightly. She knew that her brother Chen would help her. However, just as Gu Chizi thought this, Duan Qinshen stood in front of Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian with a hint of indifference. "What's your name?" Yun Jian crossed her arms and glanced at Duan Qinshen. In terms of aura, she did not lose to Duan Qinshen at all. "You don't need to know, because I never tell trash my surname." Yun Jian's words made everyone around her stop for a moment. Was she crazy? Did she know who was standing in front of her? He was the legendary figure who defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, Duan Qinshen, who was even known as the young god of war. When Duan Qinshen heard Yun Jian's words, he raised his eyebrows and looked at Yun Jian in what he thought was a cool pose. He said in a muffled voice, "Ha, interesting." Just as he finished speaking, someone pointed at the door and shouted, "Ah, the instructor is here." Hearing this, everyone looked up. Yun Jian also turned to look at the entrance of the cafeteria. She saw a tall and burly man in his 30s hurrying into the cafeteria with several instructors in tow. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. The man in the lead was Yu Xiaoluo, a good comrade whom Gu Junjian had invited to a banquet. Yu Xiaoluo was leading the way with several instructors in tow. Just as they arrived, Yu Xiaoluo looked at Yun Jian delightedly. Why didn't you tell us that you're coming to our military academy? Otherwise, we would have come to entertain you. Yu Xiaoluo was one of the strictest instructors in the military academy. Hence, the moment he said that, everyone was stunned. Who was she? Why did the instructors have to entertain her now that she was here? Instructor, she was brought into our school by Team Monarch without permission. Our school doesn't allow outsiders. Are you going to punish Team Monarch? Seeing that the instructor had arrived, Gu Chizi did not know what was good for her and asked. Just as she said that, Yu Xiaoluo frowned at Gu Chizi and snapped, "Punishment my ass. She's Team Monarch slashing God and will be attending our school next semester. She's one of us." As soon as he said this, everyone present was stunned with fear. What? Chapter 11:17. Everyone present was stunned. After all, in their minds, Yun Jian was so beautiful that her skin was so smooth that it could be broken with a snap of the fingers. She was completely different from a Special Forces soldier. Usually, girls who could become advanced Special Forces soldiers were either tanned to the point that they looked like charcoal or ugly women without any salt. What about Yun Jian? From the moment everyone saw her, they thought that she must be some rich young lady who did not do any household chores. From her aura and the feeling she gave off, that was the case. However, when Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors appeared, and Yu Xiaoluo's rather courteous tone towards Yun Jian, everyone present was completely shocked. While they were shocked, they were also shocked and terrified. Yun Jian, a girl who looked so delicate and weak, was actually Team Monarch's famous slashing god. She was Team Monarch's slashing god, the one who had caused the instructors to fight over her to join their team some time ago. Gu Chizi had initially said those words to Yu Xiaoluo because she wanted to use the excuse of Chu Ning bringing Yun Jian, an outsider, into their school to get Yu Xiaoluo to punish Yun Jian properly. However, who would have thought that instead of getting Yu Xiaoluo to scold Team Monarch, she would be the one being scolded instead. Moreover, he had learned of an incredible matter. Yun Jian was actually Team Monarch's slashing god. Gu Chizi's mouth, which was already slightly agape, dropped even further. As for the group from Invincible Gang, including Duan Qinshen, they were completely dumbfounded. All of them looked at the scene unfolding before them in disbelief. Compared to Gu Chizi's group, as well as the horrified expressions of the students who were watching the show, Chu Ning and the others had relaxed expressions. "Heh, my Yun Jian is amazing." Chu Ning stood beside Yun Jian. She glanced sideways at Yun Jian's flawless face and said. As Chu Ning spoke, she gave Gu Chizi a provocative look. There was a hidden smirk in his eyes that said, "Now you have nothing to say, right?" Gu Chizi had always been a competitive girl. When she caught a glimpse of Chu Ning's gaze, she felt even angrier. Although she had just expressed a strong shock at Yun Jian's identity, Gu Chizi was never a person who was willing to be at a disadvantage. To put it bluntly, he would not shed a tear until he saw the coffin. Hee, Gu Chizi first snorted coldly, then she sized up Yun Jian from head to toe. Yun Jian's frail body was on the verge of collapsing. She gave off the impression that she was a fragile girl. Especially when her favorite Chingij was staring at Yun Jian intently, the adoration in his gaze was obvious. Gu Chizi was even more annoyed. "Sir, is she really the legendary slashing god from Team Monarch?" The other 6 members of Team Monarch were all defeated by my brother Chen alone. Moreover, a girl's strength is always weaker than a guy's. With that frail body of hers, is she really the slashing god from Team Monarch? Gu Chizi looked at Yu Xiaoluo. Her tone of suspicion and anger toward Yun Jian was obvious to everyone present. Yu Xiaoluo was stunned, but he quickly reacted. He looked at Yun Jian and said to Gu Chizi with unusual firmness, "If it wasn't her, who else in this world could have wiped out the most powerful flying sky gang in Country X's H province's underground black market all by herself? And who could have gathered the Kosha mercenaries and an Han group to join forces with the Zhe province's army to completely wipe out the international assassin group, Inferno Ring?" Chapter 11:18. Why was Team Monarch slashing god so famous? Most of the people present only knew of Team Monarch/God and had heard of her name before. However, what they knew about Team Monarch/God was limited. Some of them even knew of Team Monarch/God title, but it was only limited to the time when a few of the instructors fought over her and ended up being caught by the chief instructor and scolded harshly. Yunjian's previous feat was not known in Min City Military School. Moreover, the students had no way of knowing about it. They only knew that Team Monarch/God was powerful, but no one knew how powerful she was. It was the same for Gu Chizi. Her invincible gang had no idea how powerful Team Monarch/God was, which was why they provoked the other 6 members of Team Monarch. As for Duan Xinchen, he looked indifferent and did not like Gu Chizi, but he did not refuse when Gu Chizi asked him to take on the 6 members of Team Monarch. Moreover, not only did Duan Xinchen not refuse, he defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch right away, not giving them any face as classmates. When the 6 members of Team Monarch were defeated by Duan Xinchen, although Duan Xinchen did not come out to ridicule them, he made Chu Ning and the others suffer from the ridicule of their classmates. Moreover, Duan Xinchen maintained his cold personality and pretended to be a handsome man of few words. Duan Xinchen's strength was not bad, which was why he liked to pretend to be a mysterious person. Of course, before Yunjian appeared, Duan Xinchen's mysterious facade was quite successful. However, the moment Yu Xiaoluo finished talking about Yunjian's legendary experience, Duan Xinchen's pretentious face froze completely. He did not expect that the girl he fell in love with at first sight would actually annihilate an entire gang alone. She had gathered 2 of the world's top assassin organizations to annihilate the internationally renowned Inferno Ring. This was really done by an underage girl? What? How is this possible? Instructor, are you kidding us? I heard that Inferno Ring was annihilated by Arjia Province's army, right? How could it be her? Gu Qixi was frightened by Yu Xiaoluo's words. She raised her hands in disbelief and stared at Yunjian, who was standing not too far away, in horror. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and looked over with a sneer. Seeing Gu Qixi looking at her, Yunjian revealed a strange smile. This smile made Gu Qixi shiver. Gu Qixi quickly retracted her gaze and looked at Yu Xiaoluo. She hoped to hear from Yu Xiaoluo that he had made a mistake and that such a powerful person was not Yunjian. However, before Yu Xiaoluo could make a sound, Yunjian snatched the right to speak. Yunjian was standing not far away. She suddenly stopped smiling and looked at them with her clear eyes. Then, she said indifferently, "If it wasn't me, could it be you, trash?" Yunjian's words, coupled with her cold and beautiful face, made everyone stare at her for a few seconds. Gu Qixi was shocked by Yunjian's rhetorical question. She already disliked Yunjian. Now, Yunjian's words made Gu Qixi even angrier. Why are you so arrogant? Be careful, or I'll let my brother Chen beat you until you have to look for your teeth on the floor. Right after Gu Qixi said that, Yunjian's knuckles cracked as she strode toward them and uttered a rousing statement. Chapter 11:19. As Yunjian spoke, she was already walking towards Gu Chizi. The Invincible gang bullied her Team Monarch members. Did they really think they could sit back and relax? Yunjian's personality had always been like this. Don't blame her for being heartless. Today's incident, even if the Invincible gang did not come looking for trouble, the Invincible gang's president, Duan Xinchen, had beaten up Chu Ning and the others in front of the entire school, causing them to lose face. Just based on this incident alone, Yunjian would never let the Invincible gang off. Yunjian, Seeing Yunjian walk over, Chu Ning was extremely touched. The 6 members of Team Monarch had never asked Yunjian to avenge them. Even if they had a strong teammate like Yunjian, after being beaten up by the Invincible gang's Duan Xinchen and losing face in front of the entire school, Team Monarch's first instinct was to fight back. The first reaction of Chu Ning and the others was to train their skills as hard as they could, wanting to win with their own strength. Of course, this was different from Yunjian taking the initiative to avenge Chu Ning and the others. Yunjian had already planned for this. Who would dare to touch her, Yunjian's people? You. What are you trying to do? Gu Qizi was so shocked by Yunjian's sudden move that she stopped in her tracks. She took a few steps back. With this step, Gu Qizi almost sprained her ankle and fell down. However, Gu Qizi managed to keep it in check. Cut the crap. Everyone from the Invincible Gang can come at me together, Yunjian said frivolously as she stood on the spot with her arms crossed. Everyone from the Invincible Gang, come at me together? There were 30 to 40 members of the Invincible Gang present. Moreover, everyone in the military school was naturally different in strength from the students in normal schools. It could be said that everyone's strength was on par with students like Chu Xiangnan. And Yunjian wanted to take on 30 to 40 people alone? Was she crazy? Huh? What? You want everyone from the Invincible Gang to go against you alone? Great, great. Gu Qizi was still a little afraid of Yunjian just now. Now that she heard Yunjian's words, she almost clapped her hands and cheered. Gu Qizi originally thought that Yunjian wanted to have a one-on-one battle with the Invincible Gang. However, they did not expect Yunjian to be so fierce. She wanted to take on 30 to 40 members of the Invincible Gang alone. Most importantly, they had the strongest big brother Chen on their side. Even if she, Yunjian, was made of steel, she would still lose to 30 to 40 of them. Gu Qizi was just about to direct everyone from the Invincible Gang to fight Yunjian when Duan Xinshan pressed her shoulder down. Duan Xinshan pressed his hand on Gu Qizi's shoulder and stared at her perfect face, mesmerized, before telling Gu Qizi, "She's just a girl. It's not good for our Invincible Gang to bully her with numbers." Duan Xinshan's words made Gu Qizi's face darken immediately. "Brother Chen, you're actually defending her." Gu Qizi shouted angrily. Seeing the actions of the few people present, the instructors did not stop them. Instead, they stood aside and watched the show. If it had been any other time, the instructors would have stepped forward to stop the students from fighting one-on-one in front of them. However, today, the main character was Yunjian, and they did not say a word. "You're not going to make a move, are you?" Yunjian stood where she was with a nonchalant smirk. After laughing, she suddenly stopped smiling. In the next second, everyone saw her figure flash. It really only took a few seconds. Duan Xinshan stood in his original spot and chased after Yunjian's figure. By the time he saw Yunjian's figure with his naked eye, he felt Yunjian's foot land on his abdomen. With a bang, Duan Xinshan was kicked to the ground. Yunjian, who had retracted her leg in time, sneered. "Pretending to be a man who won't attack a woman? I'm sorry, but even if you don't fight, you won't be able to change your fate of being kicked out of the canteen today." Chapter 11:20. Yunjian's words had exposed Duan Xinshan's actions and caused the members of the Invincible sect to panic. However, no one present was paying attention to Yunjian's words. When the instructors saw the scene just now, they all straightened their bodies. Oh my god. Someone had seen Yunjian kick Duan Xinshan away in a matter of seconds. He was so shocked that he was in a state of infinite fear. Gu Qizi had seen her most admired and adored brother Chen get kicked away by Yunjian. Her entire body tensed up and her hands clenched into fists, as if she had seen something extremely terrifying. At that moment, everyone was not shocked by Yunjian's action of kicking Duan Xinshan away. The people present were all people with strength. Usually, there would be fights. Moreover, most of the people present would be able to kick someone to the ground. This wasn't a difficult move. The reason why the people present were shocked, terrified, and frightened was that their eyes were wide open in fear and shock. It was because of Yunjian's speed. The distance between Yunjian's position and Duan Xinshan's position was at least a dozen meters. The time it took for Yunjian to charge over and kick Duan Xinshan away was definitely not more than 3 seconds. Her speed was so fast that the naked eye could not capture it. Duan Xinshan, who had defeated Chu Ning and the other 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, did not even realize that Yunjian was standing right in front of him before he was sent flying with a kick. A person, or rather, a powerful person, wanted to be powerful. She wanted to be more powerful than others. What was the most important thing? Speed. For example, when a powerful person faced off against another powerful person, for example, a sharpshooter faced off against another sharpshooter. Both of them were heroes among men, elites among the strong, kings among the elites. Who was more powerful? Without a doubt, when a powerful person faced off against another powerful person, speed was the only thing that mattered. Speed was the only thing that mattered who was more powerful. For example, if two sharpshooters were to fight, even if the sharpshooter was 0.1 seconds faster than the other, it would be the key to victory for the sharpshooter, or even killing the other in one move. Yun Jian's strength might not be much greater than Duan Qinshan's. In fact, internationally, there were many people who were stronger than Yun Jian. But why was Yun Jian more powerful than them? She was only competing in speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, disability. Speed was speed. The speed that she displayed earlier was so fast that the naked eye could not capture it. It was also because of this frightening speed that Duan Qinshan could not even see Yun Jian's position. Naturally, he was no match for her. However, Duan Qinshan was a powerhouse who had defeated all 6 members of Team Monarch. Even Duan Qinshan had used all of his strength's full strength when he defeated. But what about Yun's of Yun Jian's of Yun? With this incredible speeds kick seconds. Oh my god. Just as everyone was in a daze, one of the instructors shouted in shock. Everyone was attracted by the instructor's voice and turned to look at the instructors. The instructors, led by Yu Xiaoluo, had the same expression on their faces. Their mouths were wide open in an O shape as they watched the scene unfold before them in disbelief. Even the instructors were shocked to this extent. Everyone was even more shocked when they saw that. At that moment, instructor Yu Xiaoluo's voice was heard again. Oh my god. This is the first time I've learned that a human's speed can reach such a level. Hearing the instructor's words, the students present were even more terrified and each of them took a deep breath. Chapter 11:21. There was a reason why the instructors did not intervene when they saw Yun Jian challenge the invincible gang. After all, Yun Jian had made a name for herself and the instructors had gotten into a fight not too long ago to fight for her. Even the chief instructor had to step in to stop them before they were willing to let it go. However, the instructors had not seen Yun Jian except for Yu Xiaoluo. When they saw Yun Jian earlier, they had some suspicions in their hearts. It had to be said that Yun Jian's looks, coupled with her identity, were really hard to believe. That was why the instructors did not intervene just now. In fact, part of the reason was that they wanted to see how strong Yun Jian really was. However, reality proved that whether it was Yun Jian's strength or her methods, they were not disappointed. Not only were they not disappointed, but at this very moment, the few instructors present were completely shocked. Was she really just a teenage girl? That heaven-defying speed just now was too shocking, right? After Yun Jian retracted her leg, she did not look at Duan Qinshan immediately. Instead, she turned slightly to the side and glanced at the instructors behind her from the corner of her eyes. She pursed her lips slightly. Instructors, are you satisfied? Everyone thought that after Yun Jian attacked Duan Qinshan, she would continue to attack him or ask him to stand up and continue to fight. However, no one expected Yun Jian to turn to the instructors behind her and say what she had just said. Everyone present was bewildered. However, the instructors trembled violently and straightened their backs immediately. Several drill masters exchanged glances without leaving a trace. They were even more horrified and stunned. When they saw Yun Jian and Duan Qinshan arguing just now, the instructors should have intervened and stopped them. However, they did not. No one present had any suspicions either. The instructors had thought that they wanted to see Yun Jian's skills and that no one present would know the reason. However, they had miscalculated. Yun Jian was not only skilled, but the instructors also did not expect that her observation skills were equally shocking. When Yun Jian suddenly asked, a tall, thin, and handsome instructor who had been tanned by the sun paused. Then, he pursed his lips and replied, very strong. As soon as the instructor finished speaking, Yu Xiaoluo stepped forward to clear his name. Cough, cough, cough. Fighting is not allowed in school. Yun Jian was just joking with you. Let's stop here. If the instructors did not step up to stop the fight now that Yun Jian had called their names out of the blue, the students would realize that they had not stepped up to stop the fight at the first instance. Moreover, Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors were obviously biased towards Yun Jian. After hearing Yu Xiaoluo's words, the instructors from the invincible gang did not dare to move. Instructor, how is that a joke? My brother Chen is about to vomit blood from the kick. Gu Chizi was unconvinced. She pulled up Duan Qinshan, who had been kicked to the ground and was about to vomit blood, and said indignantly. Then what do you want? Yu Xiaoluo glared at Gu Chizi with a headache. I want her to apologize to us. Gu Chizi could not remember how her good brother Chen had humiliated the 6 members of Team Monarch. Forget about an apology, Duan Qinshan did not even apologize to Chu Ning and the others. At this moment, Gu Chizi pointed her finger at Yun Jian. She was very confident that Yun Jian would be forced by the instructors to apologize to them. However, just as Gu Chizi spoke, Yun Jian's cold voice rang out. Apologize? Sure. As she spoke, Yun Jian was already walking over. Chapter 11:22. As she watched Yun Jian walk toward her and say, sure, apologize. Gu Chizi's smile became even more obvious. Indeed, under the gaze of the instructors, even Yun Jian did not dare to be presumptuous. Wasn't she still walking toward her obediently and apologizing to them? The main thing is to apologize to my big brother Chen. You took advantage of the situation just now. If you hadn't taken advantage of the situation, my big brother Chen wouldn't have lost to you. When Gu Chizi saw Yun Jian walking toward her, she thought that Yun Jian's apology to the invincible gang was inevitable. Thus, she even reminded Yun Jian to apologize to her big brother Chen. It was important that Yun Jian apologize to her big brother Chen. That was not all. Gu Chizi was someone who would take advantage of others. Not only did she want Yun Jian to apologize, but she also wanted to use this opportunity to tell everyone present. It was not that her invincible gang's Duan Qinshan was weaker than Yun Jian, but that Yun Jian had taken advantage of the situation and launched a sneak attack. That was how she won. At this moment, Yun Jian was standing less than half a meter in front of Gu Chizi. At the thought that Yun Jian was about to apologize to her, Gu Chizi smiled. Seeing that Yun Jian did not speak, she waited for a while and then urged her, hurry up and apologize. Hurry up and apologize, you. Before Gu Chizi could finish speaking, Yun Jian's voice rang out. Taking advantage of the situation? Are you referring to that? Just as she said this, Yun Jian reached out her right hand and raised it slightly. In the next second, she threw her right hand out and slapped Gu Chizi's face. This slap, along with Yun Jian's words, caused Gu Chizi to fall to the ground. Her face burned from the slap. Gu Chizi did not react for a long time. Yun Jian walked over and grabbed Gu Chizi's long hair with an expressionless face. She pulled Gu Chizi's hair and pulled her face close to herself. Then, Yun Jian smiled coldly. You. How dare you hit me? Instructor, she. Yun Jian flung Gu Chizi away violently. Then, he dragged his scalp close to Yun Jian's head. She had just been overwhelmed by the pain and wanted to curse Yun Jian viciously when she saw Yun Jian's murderous eyes. Gu Chizi was frightened and hurriedly asked the instructor for help. However, just as Gu Chizi's cry for help sounded, Yun Jian raised her hand and gave Gu Chizi another slap. She stopped Gu Chizi from calling for help from the instructors. Everyone present was stunned by Yun Jian's ruthless skills. Even the instructors in the distance felt a chill run down their spines. Yun Jian gave Gu Chizi a second slap. Just as she was about to give Gu Qixi a third slap, Duan Qinshan's male voice sounded from the side. Qixi is my sister. Give me some face. Don't hit her. Duan Qinshan looked at Yunjian in a daze. Her sweet and pleasant face was mesmerizing. There were always people in this world who felt that they were some powerful figure. They felt that as long as they showed up, the other party would definitely give them some face. Hearing Duan Qinshan's voice, Yunjian was already giving him face by not laughing out loud. Yunjian loosened her grip, letting go of Gu Qixi's hand. Duan Qinshan thought that Yunjian was giving him some face, so she let go of Gu Qixi's hand. He was elated. As expected, she must be interested in me. Just as Duan Qinshan thought of that, Yunjian had already let go of Gu Qixi's hand and stood up. She glanced sideways at Duan Qinshan. At that moment, the murderous intent of a special agent was on full display. She looked at Duan Qinshan with her sharp eyes and curled her lips coldly. I heard that you used martial arts to defeat the 6 members of Team Monarch. At this point, Yunjian smiled mockingly at Duan Qinshan and continued, then today, I'll use martial arts to send you to your grave. Yunjian knows martial arts too. Chapter 1123. Martial arts were different from Taekwondo, Sanda, and grappling. It required long-term persistence. Of course, mastering martial arts could improve a person's reaction speed and agility, which were essential in combat. Those who could learn martial arts usually started practicing when they were very young. Therefore, when they heard that Yunjian actually knew martial arts, everyone present was completely shocked. Yunjian, you actually know martial arts? Chu Ning, who was standing nearby, looked at Yunjian in a daze and asked in surprise. Genius. She's a genius. She actually knows martial arts. Haha, she's now the daughter of my old comrade. My old comrade even instructed me to teach her well. She'll definitely join my team next semester. None of you are allowed to snatch her from me, haha. After hearing Yunjian's words, Yu Xiaoluo became even more excited and quickly spoke up. This old comrade referred to Gu Junjian. Just as Yu Xiaoluo finished speaking, a few instructors beside him were very dissatisfied and were about to speak up to snatch Yunjian away. Gu Qizi's discordant voice suddenly sounded. Her words were directed at Yu Xiaoluo, and her tone carried a hint of jealousy. Instructor, does she really know martial arts just because she says so? Martial arts isn't something that ordinary people can learn. My brother Chen's master is a reclusive expert. Back then, he took brother Chen in as his disciple because he fancied his skills. My brother Chen is that expert's only disciple. How could he be compared to her? Moreover, it's not certain if she's learning authentic martial arts. After being slapped a few times by Yunjian, Gu Qizi was furious. However, considering Yunjian's skills, she didn't dare to step forward rashly. Therefore, she spoke in a boastful tone. The way she addressed brother Chen was enough to show how proud Gu Qizi was at that moment. Especially when she mentioned that Duan Xinshan's master was a reclusive expert, the students present all gasped. Some of them even exclaimed, wow. After all, in this era, the term hidden expert gave people a lot of room for imagination. There were even some people who felt that hermit experts were existences that were on par with immortals. Hearing the exclamations of the surrounding students, Gu Qixi proudly raised his chin. Bragging about her brother Chen felt like she was bragging about herself. After Gu Qixi finished speaking, Duan Qinshan kept staring at Yunjian. When Gu Qixi finished speaking, Duan Qinshan also said something that sounded very manly. I don't want to do anything to you. It wouldn't be good if I hurt you. Duan Qinshan's gaze dimmed slightly as he spoke. The way he looked at Yunjian was extremely gentle, just like how a young man would look at a girl. Those who didn't know better would think that there was something going on between him and Yunjian. Then let's fight. Yunjian pursed her lips. Before she could say anything, a familiar and magnetic male voice came from the door. When he turned around, he saw Ce walking in through the cafeteria's main entrance. Mo Sen and Adam followed closely behind him. Duan Qinshan raised his brows. He saw the handsome Si Yi's tall figure suddenly appear and stand beside Yunjian. A bad premonition spread throughout his body. Duan Qinshan furrowed his brows as he looked at the outstanding man in front of him and asked, "Who are you?" Chapter 11:24. The moment Ce finished speaking, Duan Qinshan's face turned as black as charcoal. She actually has a man? Duan Qinshan only had one thought at that moment. The girl that he had finally taken a liking to was already with a man. At that moment, Duan Qinshan saw Yunjian nestled in Ce's arms in front of everyone. She lifted her head slightly and looked at Ce. She pursed her beautiful red lips and asked softly, "Why are you here?" Her soft, feminine voice melted Ce's heart. Ce's heart was about to melt. Of course, Yunjian would only reveal such a girlish expression when she was with Ce. When Ce heard Yunjian's gentle voice, he felt that even if she asked him to die, he would fulfill her request without hesitation. His face that was flat and emotionless as if it would be cold and emotionless for the rest of his life revealed a handsome expression that was only reserved for Yunjian. "I'm here, to sign up." Looking at Yunjian's petite face, Ce almost kissed her tender lips in front of everyone, but he held himself back in the end. He looked at Yunjian with a gentle gaze and spoke softly. "Sign up." Yunjian raised her brows slightly and repeated in surprise. "Sign up?" "Our Min City Military Academy has a limited number of places, and students have to pass the high school entrance exam to be admitted. If you sign up so hastily, our school will not accept you." When he heard that Ce wanted to sign up for their school, Duan Qinshan felt like killing Ce. He looked at Ce's face, which was many times more perfect and handsome than his own. He had originally planned to pursue Yunjian after she entered the school next semester. In the end, Ce had appeared out of nowhere and was even prettier than him. Duan Qinshan was extremely unhappy. On the other hand, Duan Qinshan knew at a glance that other than Yunjian, the results of the middle school exams were not out yet. Even if Ce wanted to study in their military academy, he would have to see if he had the right to do so. How could he come to school just because he wanted to? Exactly. Our military academy isn't a place where you can just come and go as you please, much less an ordinary school where you can just spend some money to get into. When Gu Qi saw Ce's handsome face, she was completely dumbfounded, just like everyone else present. How could there be such a handsome man in this world? It was just like when he saw Yunjian. It was undeniable that when Ce walked to Yunjian's side, the degree of compatibility between the two made everyone envious. They wished they could be one of them. Gu Qi had the same thought, but she knew very well that she could not have Ce. Since that was the case, why not destroy him? Gu Qi felt that she could not have him. She did not want Ce to enter the military academy and live happily ever after with Yunjian. She would go crazy if she saw this scene. She wanted nothing more than to destroy him. The few instructors standing by the side frowned. However, at this moment, a middle-aged man in a suit ran in through the main entrance of the cafeteria, looking travel-worn. This middle-aged man was bald, but the hair on the side of his head was extremely lush. After the middle-aged man ran through the main entrance of the cafeteria, he looked around. The students present were stunned for a moment. Then, someone immediately recognized this middle-aged man. Oh my God. It's actually the principal of our school who hasn't shown his face for hundreds of years. The principal is actually in school today, a student shouted in surprise. Just as this student finished speaking, the bald middle-aged man caught sight of a tall figure. Then, he almost swayed as he rushed over with all his might. The middle-aged man used all his strength to run to Ce as fast as he could. Then, he bowed and respectfully handed a letter of admission to Ce. Chapter 11:25. This middle-aged man was the principal of Min City Military Academy. His surname was Murong. Principal Murong was the principal of the military academy. He was a rigid person, but every student in the military academy knew that Principal Murong was a very righteous person. Furthermore, Principal Murong rarely appeared in the academy. Even if he did, he would only show his face. Even if he bumped into his classmates on the roadside and they greeted him with a greeting, Principal Murong would nod at them, but he would not smile. He had always been an experienced and steady person. But now? Their military academy's famous rigid Principal Murong was actually acting as though he was meeting his superior. He was even more respectful towards CE than when he met the country's leaders. It was as though he was deliberately trying to flatter him. Min City Military Academy was a famous school with a long history. The principal of Min City had always held considerable authority. In other words, even if the provincial leaders came down, Principal Murong would not need to flatter them. This was because Principal Murong's status was different from that of ordinary high schools. But now, he was actually being so respectful towards a young man in his 20s. This scene was extremely horrifying in the eyes of everyone who saw it. Especially Duan Qinshan and Gu Chizi. What they had said to CE just now could be said to be absolute. They had used an absolute tone to tell CE that a person like him had no right to study in their military academy. But Principal Murong's appearance now was like a tight slap to Duan Qinshan and Gu Chizi's faces. Duan Qinshan and Gu Chizi's faces instantly turned pale. At this moment, they were so ashamed that they could not find a place to hide themselves. Facing Duan Qinshan and Gu Chizi's embarrassment, CE, who was hugging Yunjian's slender waist, only reached out a hand and waved it gently. Mo Sun, who was behind him, understood. He stepped forward and reached out his hand to Principal Murong on behalf of CE. "Give it to me." When Principal Murong heard this, he happily handed the admission notice to Mo Sun personally. Then, he smiled and looked kindly at CE. "Have you eaten? Do you want me to swipe your card?" Headmaster Murong said as he quickly lowered his head and took out a meal card from his pocket. "In school, you can't get food without a meal card." "No need." CE was a man of few words when dealing with outsiders. His eyes were fixed on Yunjian, who was in his arms. As long as he saw his Xiao Jian, all his unhappiness was nonsense. After rejecting Principal Murong, CE suddenly thought that his Yunjian might not have eaten yet, so he looked down at her and asked softly with a gentleness that was completely different from when he was treating an outsider, "Are you hungry?" "I've already eaten," Yunjian said as she pointed at the boxed lunch she was eating not far away. "You're not done yet?" CE looked in the direction that Yunjian was pointing and frowned slightly. "Let's eat first." "You can't be hungry, it'll affect your health," CE said as he tugged Yunjian's hand and led her there. CE's aura had intimidated everyone just now, so no one dared to move. They could only watch as CE tugged Yunjian's hand and led her there. They were halfway there when Duan Qinshan's voice came from behind them again. Chapter 11:26. Seeing CE groping Yunjian and even holding Yunjian's hand as they walked to the dining table like a couple, Duan Qinshan could not take it anymore. Duan Qinshan had always known that he was outstanding and worked harder than others when he was young. When he grew up, he even became the representative of other people's children. Some time ago, he even took on the 6 members of Team Monarch and was later given the title of Young God of War. All of this made him very confident and he looked at the people around him in a higher light. Duan Qinshan's standard for choosing a partner was that ordinary girls were not good enough for him. However, ever since he saw Yunjian, Duan Qinshan felt that his spring had arrived and it was time for him to fall in love. Duan Qinshan felt that he had fallen in love with Yunjian at first sight. Especially when Yunjian stood in the crowd as if she was the king of the world. Duan Qinshan felt his heart roaring and boiling. Only a girl like her was good enough for someone as outstanding as him. However, Duan Qinshan did not expect that Yunjian already had a man. Therefore, at that moment, Duan Qinshan only had one thought and that was to get CE out of his sight. He did not even consider why Principal Murong was so respectful to CE. Just as Duan Qinshan finished speaking, everyone present looked over as if they were about to watch a good show. Principal Murong was originally respectful to Ce, but when he heard Duan Qinshan speak to Ce in such a tone, he was so scared that he trembled. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Principal Murong's face froze when he heard Duan Qinshan provoking Ce. He immediately yelled at Duan Qinshan. This big shot is not someone you can provoke as you please. Principal Murong yelled at Duan Qinshan. Duan Qinshan was even more indignant after being yelled at by the principal. I accept. Just as Principal Murong was about to burst into tears from Duan Qinshan's idiocy, Ce's deep and forceful voice rang with a hint of sharpness in his tone. The big shot actually agreed. Principal Murong nearly broke out in a cold sweat. Ce looked down at Yun Jian with a smirk as he lowered his tall body to Yun Jian's ear. Xiao Jian, what do you want him to do if he loses? Ce then continued, break his arm? Break his leg? Or break his head? Despite the gory words coming from Ce's mouth, they sounded so serious. Everyone who heard this felt their hair stand on end. He could actually say such words in such a relaxed manner. Duan Qinshan could not help shuddering. If he loses, he'll get out of the school. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Duan Qinshan took a deep breath. Compared to Ce's ruthlessness, Yun Jian was much gentler. Yun Jian had told him to scram, but compared to what Ce had said, Yun Jian did not break his limbs. Could it be that she was reluctant? Duan Qinshan could not help thinking that she must be interested in him as well. After all, a guy like Ce was probably just a pretty boy despite his flawless looks. Duan Qinshan, on the other hand, was a pretty boy whose strength and looks were on par. Just as Duan Qinshan thought about it, Yun Jian spoke again, because I don't want to see disgusting things hovering in front of me when I enroll. Yun Jian paused before continuing, or if he loses, I'll break all his meridians so that he can't practice martial arts for the rest of his life. Chapter 11:27. Duan Qinshan's last bit of hope was shattered when he heard Yun Jian's words. Was he really that unbearable in her eyes? Whatever Xiao Jian says. Ce caressed Yun Jian's head softly. Yun Jian's hair was tied up in a high ponytail, looking spirited from both afar and close up. Usually, there were many girls in school who liked to wear their hair down. However, many schools had rules that forbade girls from wearing their hair down and had to tie it up in ponytails. Many girls did not know that a girl's true beauty came from her heart. Just like this high ponytail, it gave off a domineering and spirited vibe. Yun Jian liked to tie her hair up in such a high ponytail as well. The hairstyle suited her as well. Although she didn't look as feminine as some girls, she vividly reflected her unique beauty, which was something that no other girl could compare to. Ce stroked her hair softly, his movements smooth as well. Looking at Ce's gentle gaze, Duan Qinshan, who stood a distance away, could not hold himself back. Due to his confidence, Duan Qinshan told Ce, fine. If you lose, you're out of the military academy. If I lose, not only will I be kicked out of the academy, I'll cripple all my meridians and never practice martial arts again. Duan Qinshan's words stunned everyone present. Qingij, are you crazy? Is it just for her? Gu Qixi was shocked by Duan Qinshan's actions and roared at him with a finger pointing at Yun Jian. Qixi, move away. Duan Qinshan pushed Gu Qixi away and went to Ce. No, I won't. Even if Gu Qixi was dumb, she could tell what Duan Qinshan thought of Yun Jian. She would be dumb if she let go now. Duan Qinshan's gaze darkened. He could not take it anymore and his heart skipped a beat before he flung Gu Qixi away. Qixi, stay out of my business. As he spoke, Duan Qinshan went closer to Ce. Ce smirked and rubbed Yun Jian's head before leaning down to steal a kiss on Yun Jian's red lips right in front of Duan Qinshan. Some of the people present even shrieked when they saw the scene. Wow! Oh! Duan Qinshan's heart wrenched at the sight as he bellowed and charged at Ce. Go to hell! Go to hell! Ah! Duan Qinshan bellowed as he sprinted towards Ce without a care for his image. Ce's eyes narrowed. Sure enough, Duan Qinshan, who had been learning martial arts since he was a child and had even learned martial arts from an expert, was different from the people he had met before. Ah, they're fighting. They're so fierce. I think Duan Qinshan is going to win. Isn't that so? Duan Qinshan fought against the 6 members of Team Monarch a while ago and defeated 5 of them. The woman who wasn't defeated was defeated as well. That guy is probably just a pretty boy. He's just a little good-looking and doesn't have any real skills. Otherwise, why haven't we heard of his name? That's right. The chatter of the people present could be heard. However, the group of people who were complaining had only just reached this point. Duan Qinshan was already in front of Ce. He lifted his leg and kicked Ce, who was still hugging Yunjian, in an attempt to kick Ce's hand away from Yunjian. Mo Sen and Adam followed behind Ce and did not even look like they were going to make a move. Duan Qinshan lifted his leg and used a martial arts move to kick Ce away. Chapter 11:28. Duan Xingchen lifted one leg and used the other leg to spring up from the ground near Ce. Then, he used both legs to propel himself forward. One of his legs was straight while the other was also off the ground. However, it was bent into a triangular shape and kicked towards Ce. At the same time, Duan Xingchen was extremely fast. Although he wasn't as fast as Yunjian, his speed was definitely in the top 3 among the colonels in Min City Military Academy. Duan Xingchen dared to fight in front of Headmaster Murong. Everyone present couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for him. However, Headmaster Murong wasn't concerned about a student breaking the school rules and fighting in public. Instead, he was concerned about Duan Qinshan, that bastard. He actually dared to provoke that big shot. Was he trying to get himself killed? Just as he was thinking about this, Duan Xingchen's kick was already in front of Ce. Everyone present sucked in a sharp breath. However, at this moment, Duan Xingchen's kick had just arrived in front of Ce. At this critical moment, Ce stared at Yunjian with a gentle gaze. Duan Xingchen already had victory in his hands and could send Ce flying with a kick. Ce suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed forward with his large, fair hand. He didn't even turn his head to look. That slender palm caught Duan Qinshan's 2 feet in front of him in an instant. He didn't even look up as he grabbed Duan Xingchen's leg. Everyone present was shocked by this action. He actually grabbed Duan Xingchen's leg without even looking. Duan Xingchen had also leaped into the air and kicked towards Ce. If Ce could grab Duan Xingchen's leg, it would be equivalent to lifting Duan Xingchen's entire body weight with one hand. Ce was tall and not fat at all. His body proportions were perfect. However, just by looking at Ce's figure, it was impossible to tell that he had such strength. Just as everyone was thinking about this, Ce suddenly grabbed Duan Qinshan's leg. He led Duan Qinshan to the side and threw him to the side. Boom! Not long after, Ce smashed Duan Qinshan onto the ground. His entire body trembled as he lay on the ground. He stretched out his hand, and without even looking at Duan Qinshan, who was about to kick him, he grabbed Duan Qinshan's leg and flung him away. His eyes were fixed on Yunjian the whole time. This was simply a blind arrest. With Duan Qinshan's speed, even if they saw it, it would be hard for them to react in time, let alone grab Duan Qinshan's leg and fling him away without even looking. Duan Qinshan's strength had been reduced to nothing by Ce at this moment. Cough cough cough, Duan Qinshan lay on the ground. His heart almost exploded from being flung away by Ce. Adam, destroy his meridians. He will never be able to enter Min City's military academy. Before anyone could react, Ce's cold and emotionless voice rang out. Yes. Adam obeyed and walked over. Everyone present was so scared that their faces turned pale. Was he really going to destroy him? After Ce finished his sentence, he grabbed Yunjian's hand and walked out of the canteen. Hey, Yunjian, are you leaving? Chu Xiangnan stopped Chu Ning just as she was about to follow them. You're going to be a third wheel. Chu Xiangnan chuckled. At this moment, Yun Jian had been dragged by Ce to a small forest in the canteen. There was no one around. Didn't you say that the Inhun organization was busy? Why are you back so soon? Yun Jian asked as she leaned into Ce's arms. We're going to Yulong mainland tomorrow. I'll be back to accompany you. Ce hugged Yun Jian as he held Yun Jian's hand. He looked at Yun Jian tenderly. Chapter 1129. Yun Jian nodded after hearing Ce's words. Just as she was about to say something, Duan Qinshan's blood-curdling screams and Gu Chizi's desperate cries came from the cafeteria. Ah, Brother Chen. No. Needless to say, Adam must have crippled Duan Qinshan's meridians and helped him fulfill his promise. Affected by the atmosphere, Ce frowned and dragged Yun Jian back to the military school cafeteria. Inside the military school cafeteria, Duan Qinshan's limbs were crippled and he lay paralyzed on the ground. Seeing this, Headmaster Murong, as the headmaster of the military school, should have stepped in to stop this, but he did not dare to say a word. It was Duan Qinshan's fault for messing with that big shot for no reason. Headmaster Murong did not dare to intervene at all. The instructors stood rooted to the ground and gulped. They saw Ce pulling Yun Jian into the cafeteria. Yun Jian, Chu Ning shouted the moment she saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian had already returned to her original spot. Duan Qinshan's meridians were crippled in public and he was already unconscious, but Gu Chizi was still crying. Humph, you reap what you sow. Chu Ning said angrily as she glanced at the other side. Duan Qinshan had injured all 6 members of Team Monarch, especially Fang Xiaoran, who was the most severely injured and was still suffering from the after-effects. Fang Xiaoran went to the hospital and the doctor said that the after-effects would follow him for the rest of his life. At that time, Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were both angry and resentful. Duan Qinshan had won the admiration of the entire school because of that battle, but he had severely injured all 6 members of Team Monarch and caused them to be despised by the entire school. Chu Ning and the others trained so hard because they wanted to defeat Duan Qinshan. It was precisely because of Duan Qinshan's cruelty that Chu Ning and the others did not feel any sympathy for him. On the contrary, they felt very satisfied. However, just as Yun Jian stood in front of Chu Ning, Gu Qi, who was crying at Duan Qinshan, suddenly stood up in hatred. She drew a knife from her waist and charged at Yun Jian. Ah, you hurt my brother Chen, I'm going to kill you. Go to hell. Gu Qi had adored Duan Qinshan since she was young. The way she saw it, Duan Qinshan was her everything. Therefore, when she saw Duan Qinshan's meridians being crippled and he could no longer practice martial arts, Gu Qi felt like she was going crazy. She did not care about anything else. She only had one thought in her mind, and that was to kill Yun Jian. It was all because of her that her brother Chen had become like this. However, Gu Qi was no match for Yun Jian. The second before Gu Qi stabbed her knife at Yun Jian kicked Gu Qi away. At the same time, the knife in Gu Qi's hand fell to the ground with a crisp sound. It was also at this moment that Yun Jian's cold voice rang out. It was enough to reach everyone's heart. Here, I keep my word. Since you dared to make a bet, you have to fulfill your promise. Yun Jian's words were directed at Gu Qi. It was not her or Ce who ruined Duan Qinshan, but Duan Qinshan who ruined himself. Since you don't have the ability, why put on a brave front? Since you put on a brave front, you have to pay for your actions. With that, Yun Jian paused. At that moment, Yun Jian was standing in front of the 6 members of Team Monarch. She looked up and a glint flashed across her eyes. She paused for 2 seconds before continuing to say something that made everyone's blood boil. Team Monarch is under my protection. If anyone dares to challenge my authority in the future, they'll be my enemy. Chapter 1130. Team Monarch. She was in charge. Anyone who disobeyed would end up like Duan Qinshen from Invincible Gang. Yun Jian's words, coupled with her uncanny display of skill just now, made her look even more intimidating. Especially the man standing beside her who even the principal obeyed. Everyone present shuddered violently. "Ha! Our Yun Jian is amazing," Chu Ning said proudly as the surrounding students looked at the scene in front of them with fear in their eyes. The aftermath of the incident was left to Adam and Emosen to handle. Adam and Emosen dealt with this matter very quickly. As for Duan Qinshen, not only was his meridians crippled, he was also expelled from the military academy. To Duan Qinshen, this was definitely an unbearable blow. As for Gu Chizi, she must have left with Duan Qinshen after he left the military academy. After all, Gu Chizi had entered the military academy with Duan Qinshen. Without their leader and vice leader, the Invincible Gang was naturally disbanded. Of course, all these happened later. Yun Jian had already returned to Longmen City with Ce. Yun Jian had planned to stay the night here and return to Longmen City before heading to Yulong mainland with Lan Su the next day. It was just that she changed her plan at the last minute when Ce came. Chu Ning and her friends had successfully applied for leave from Headmaster Murong in the afternoon to accompany Yun Jian around Min City. Chu Ning and her friends did not have classes in the evening, but after applying to the Headmaster Murong agreed to their request for leave in the afternoon at once, knowing that Yun Jian was close to them. They would depart for Yulong mainland early the next morning, but before that, Yun Jian had something to do. Yulong mainland was an unknown world to Yun Jian and Ce. They did not even know when they could return from this trip. With this in mind, Yun Jian planned to make a trip back to Rongyao Company first. Ce, on the other hand, planned to make a trip back to Anhun Group. Yun Jian planned to go to Rongyao Company the next day. The only thing Yun Jian could not let go of now was Rongyao Company. Rongyao Company was managed by Alluring Witch, but Yun Jian knew that Hagi Company's chairman, who was also Mayor's father, had been eyeing Rongyao Company for a long time now. She did not know when she would be back after leaving this time, so Yun Jian had to make a trip to Rongyao Company. Ce, on the other hand, drove off after sending Yun Jian home. He planned to rush back to Anhun Group overnight and set. He would meet Yun Jian directly when they discovered the ancient tomb, which was also the entrance of Yulong mainland. After sending Ce off, Yun Jian went to Qin Yu's suite first. After making some arrangements with her, she went to Lan Su's house. Lan Su had moved out since Qin Yu's wedding. She rented a small suite. Although it was not as big as Qin Yu's big suite, it was cozy and cozy. Yun Jian had the key to Lan Su's house. She opened the door when she arrived at Lan Su's house. At this moment, Lan Su was squatting on the ground and packing her luggage. She was wearing a pair of loose jeans with large long sleeves. It could be said that her perfect body was completely covered. Lan Su was from Yulong mainland. It was Yulong mainland's custom to dress conservatively. Lan Su shouted happily when she saw Yun Jian, Yun Jian. She then waved at Yun Jian. Yun Jian did not close the door when she saw that. Instead, she walked over with a smile. Yun Jian, look. I plan to bring these treasures back to the witch tribe. My tribesmen must have never seen these things in their lives. Lan Su said excitedly as she held the pots and pans in her hands. A familiar male voice came from the door. Lan Su, are you planning to forgive me now that you've opened the door? Then let's go get that marriage certificate tomorrow. Chapter 1131. It wasn't the first time that Adam had come to Lan Su's place to beg for forgiveness. However, Lan Su had closed the door and refused to see anyone. Of course, Adam could easily enter the house through other methods, but he didn't. He felt that if he did that, Lan Su would be even more disgusted with him. However, Adam had been coming to Lan Su's house every day to beg for forgiveness. When he came over today, he saw that Lan Su's front door was wide open. He thought that Lan Su had forgiven him, but he didn't expect that the young mistress was here. Young mistress, so you're here. Adam paused for a moment, then walked in from outside the house. Although that was what he said, Adam was actually thinking in his heart, young mistress, you came at such a bad time. Yunjian's lips curved slightly. She calmly replied, then turned to look at Lan Su. Looking at Lan Su, Yunjian opened her mouth and said, prepare your things. We'll leave at 5:30 tomorrow. With that, Yunjian used a thought-provoking gaze to sweep over Lan Su and Adam, then she turned around and left. Hey, Yunjian, don't go. Seeing that Yunjian had walked out of her house while Adam was still there, Lan Su shouted, wanting to chase after Yunjian and pull her back. However, Lan Su was stopped by Adam. Lan Su could only watch as Yunjian left. I haven't seen you in a long time, woman. How can you be so heartless? Adam grabbed Lan Su's wrist. He stared at Lan Su for 2 seconds. After a while, he suddenly pulled Lan Su into his arms and hugged her. Yunjian had come over to inform Lan Su of the departure time. Now that she had said what she wanted to say, she retreated. The next day came as promised. Yunjian had to leave Longmen City for a while and told Qin Yiru that she was going to visit Siyi's house, so she would only be back after some time. Hearing that Yunjian was going to visit Siyi's house, Qin Yiru wanted to go with her no matter what. However, she was tricked by Yunjian with a lie, so she did not tag along. Early in the morning, Qin Yiru made a few steamed buns for Yunjian. Yunjian and Lan Su had agreed to meet at East Bus Station. Once Yunjian arrived, she saw 2 silhouettes standing not far away. It was none other than Lan Su and Adam. Adam was helping Lan Su carry her heavy luggage. She wondered what happened between the two of them after Yunjian left yesterday. Lan Su's attitude toward Adam was no longer as hostile as before. Yunjian, this guy is pestering me. Can you chase him away from me? Lan Su ran over when she saw Yunjian. Her tone, however, did not sound as hostile toward Adam as her words suggested. Young master asked me to protect young mistress. I won't leave. When Adam heard Lan Su's words, he was afraid that Yunjian would help Lan Su and stop him from going with them, so he quickly stepped forward to speak up for his young master. Yunjian watched their interaction with a small smile and got on the bus with her backpack. Let's get on. The plane leaves at 6:30. We'll be late, Yunjian said as she flipped her high ponytail over her shoulder and flung it behind her. Lan Su kept quiet and quickly followed Yunjian onto the bus. Departing from the airport, this was Yunjian's second trip to Maryland in Country M after her rebirth. It was almost noon when she got off the plane. There was a time difference between Country Z's Longmen City and Country M's Maryland. It was around noon in China, but it was around 5 in the evening when she arrived in Maryland. Chapter 1132. She thought that Yunjian was visiting Siyi's house and Qin Yiru knew that Yunjian would pass by Maryland in Country M, which was also the university Guxian was studying in. Qin Yiru was a considerate mother. Even if she was not Guxian's biological mother, she felt that she was obligated to treat Guxian well since she was married to Gu Junjian. Moreover, Guxian was treating Qin Yiru very well. During Qin Yiru's wedding the last time, Guxian had even brought back an expensive gift for Qin Yiru from abroad. Qin Yiru had only asked Yunjian to bring some hometown dishes for Guxian since Qin Yiru had heard from Guxian that he missed the taste of his hometown when he was abroad. University students usually spent more time in their dorms. Yunjian came to Guxian's university and stood downstairs of Guxian's male dormitory with a few bottles filled with Longmen City's local specialties. Guxian came running out of the dormitory in no time. He was accompanied by a few other Chinese who had also come from Country Z to study here. When Yunjian came the last time, Guxian's best buddies, Dan Tianxing, Wu Dazhuang, and Zhu Zilin, were not present. It was not hard to imagine that Dan Tianxing and the rest were not in the same dormitory as Guxian. The 3 men who came out with Guxian today were obviously Guxian's roommates. Mom asked me to bring them to you. When Yin Jian saw Guxian, she passed the Longmen city's local specialties that Qin Yiru had personally pickled in a bottle to Guxian. Seeing the pretty girl coming to Guxian's dormitory for him, Guxian's 3 roommates chuckled. Oh, Guxian. I didn't expect a girl to come all the way here just to give you a token of love. What a surprise. Guxian's 3 male roommates put their arms around each other's shoulders, grinning more exaggeratedly than if they had just eaten honey. Teenagers of this age paid special attention to the actions of the opposite sex, so the trio who did not know what was going on laughed even more exaggeratedly. Guxian did not get along with his 3 roommates. However, he was displeased when he heard them talking about him and Yin Jian in such a misunderstood tone. Don't spout nonsense. This is my younger sister. Guxian grumbled at his 3 roommates before he turned to look at Yin Jian. Younger sister, is there anything you need from coming all the way here? Guxian's tone was gentler. Since Yin Jian's summer break ended early while Guxian's university summer break ended later, Guxian was still on campus. I'm here to have fun, Yin Jian replied. Oh, little girl, you actually came all the way from country Z to country M to have fun? How old are you this year? Do you want to go out and have fun with us? Guxian's 3 roommates were indeed not decent people. One of them had a flat nose and was not particularly good-looking, but he was quite tall. He looked at Yin Jian and said casually. Zhang Jiangui, my younger sister is not that kind of person. She won't fool around with you. Guxian frowned and stopped the trio from looking at Yin Jian with ill intentions. Tisk, look at what you're saying. Guxian, we're not fooling around this time. The 3 of us have applied for Hoggy Company's recruitment and are going for an interview now. The Hoggy Company is one of the top 10 international corporations. I invited your younger sister to go with me because I want to bring her out to see the world. Hey, look at you. You're really too ignorant. When Zhang Jiangui heard this, he raised his head proudly and said confidently, that's right. It was as if being able to go for an interview with the famous Hoggy Company was something to be proud of. Hoggy Company? Yin Jian arched a brow, her lips curving into a smile. What a coincidence. Hey, little girl, you know about it too, right? Big brother will bring you out to see the world. Do you want to come? Zhang Jiangui said proudly when he saw that Yin Jian knew about Hoggy Company. Chapter 1133. Hoggy Company was Mayor's father's company. At the same time, it was where Mayor, who had been pursuing Siren, worked. Hoggy Company had been established for a long time, while Rongyao Company had not been established for a long time. Therefore, Hoggy Company was more famous than Yin Jian's Rongyao Company internationally. Yin Jian came to Maryland in Country M this time because she could not let go of Rongyao Company. This was because Rongyao Company was suppressed by Hoggy Company. Mayor was the president of Hoggy Company. He dealt with Rongyao Company just to pursue Siren. However, as Mayor's father and the chairman of Hoggy Company, Matt had been coveting Rongyao Company for a long time. He even wanted to annex Rongyao Company and take it for himself. Although Siren was the president of Rongyao Company, her ability was limited. She would definitely be at a disadvantage if she fought with a big entrepreneur like Matt. Matt could not be compared with the people in the past. He could reach where he was today because of his strength and influence. Therefore, Yin Jian went to Yulong mainland to warn Matt, the chairman of Hoggy Company. Otherwise, Matt might do something when she returned from Yulong mainland. Of course, warning Maida wasn't going to work just because she was the chairman of the Rong and Yao Company. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes. She did not expect Guxian's roommates to be with her. Coincidentally, she had a way to sneak into Hoggy Company. Sister, are you really going to Hoggy Company with the 3 of them? Guxian's voice interrupted Yin Jian's thoughts. Guxian could not believe it. Was his sister really going to Hoggy Company with his 3 roommates? Guxian used to be a gangster. In order to deliberately show off to Gu Junjian, he often stayed out all night. However, the reason why he did not get along well with his 3 roommates was that these 3 roommates were gangsters. They went to nightclubs to sleep with women. Moreover, he would often get physical with girls. Gu Xian originally thought that Yun Jian would reject their invitation, but to his surprise, she actually agreed. Little sister, you're not familiar with this place, so it's better if you don't go out. Where do you live now? I'll send you back to the hotel now, Gu Xian said as he walked over. However, as soon as Gu Xian finished speaking, Zhang Jiangui pushed Gu Xian away. Then, he looked at Yun Jian with a sneaky smile and said to Gu Xian, the little girl is willing to go with us. Gu Xian, what do you mean? We are all roommates in the same dormitory. Do you not trust us or what? After Zhang Jiangui said this, Gu Xian's frown deepened. Although Gu Xian knew that his little sister was an SS racer or an advanced special forces member, he was still worried about Yun Jian. After all, in Gu Xian's eyes, Yun Jian was just a girl, even if her identity was shocking. Gu Xian glanced at Yun Jian. He knew that Yun Jian would definitely do what she said. Gu Xian paused, then said, I'll go too. Since Gu Xian wanted to go, Zhang Jiangui and the other two naturally did not stop him. After putting the bottles of pickled vegetables back in the dormitory, the group of them headed to Hagi's company. The summer vacation was scorching hot. The sun was high up in the sky, and just walking on the streets was enough to make one sweat. Zhang Jiangui was dying from the heat. He glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eye. Because he wanted to show off his abs, he had already taken off his shirt and hung it over his shoulder. Seeing that Yun Jian did not look at him, Zhang Jiangui walked over and asked Yun Jian, little girl, it's so hot today. Do you want to have ice cream to quench your thirst? With that said, Zhang Jiangui did not wait for Yun Jian to answer. As usual, he ordered his roommate, Gu Xian, to run errands for him. Gu Xian, go by me. Just as he said this, Zhang Jiangui suddenly felt that it was embarrassing for him to order Yun Jian's brother to buy things for him in front of her. Thus, Zhang Jiangui went to buy ice cream himself. Chapter 1134. Because I don't eat ice cream from strangers. But Yun Jian didn't say the last sentence. Yun Jian can eat ice, and she has eaten a lot of snacks like ice cream. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Zhang Jingui's hand that was about to reach out to Yun Jian obviously stopped. He just went to buy ice cream to flirt with Yun Jian. He didn't think about anything else at all. So when he heard Yun Jian's words, Zhang Jingui's hand directly stopped. My sister doesn't eat these things, you can keep them for yourself. Gu Xian resisted the urge to laugh and mock Zhang Jingui and said seriously. In fact, Gu Xian knew that Yun Jian can eat ice cream. But when he thought about how Zhang Jingui's three roommates usually ordered him around, and even knew that he came from a good family, they always asked him to treat them. Zhang Jingui's three roommates didn't help him at all since school started, and they often ordered him to do this and that. Although Gu Xian didn't hear it, he was very unhappy. At this moment, seeing Yun Jian's actions and Zhang Jingui's deflated look, Gu Xian simply wanted to clap his hands and cheer. Zhang Jiangui heard Gu Xian's words and wanted to flare up, but when he thought about how Yun Jian was in front of him, he held back. Hey, since little sister doesn't like it, then I'll eat it. In order to please Yun Jian, Zhang Jiangui only bought one ice cream. When he heard Yun Jian say that she didn't want to eat it, Zhang Jiangui ate it himself. The few of them walked together and arrived at the entrance of Hagi Company. Hagi Company, like Rongyao Company, was headquartered in Maryland, Country M. Like Rongyao Company, there were guards at the entrance of Hagi Company during the day. Only the official employees of Hagi Company could enter the company. After arriving at the entrance of Hagi's company, Gu Xian paused for a moment, then said to Zhang Jiangui and the others, my sister and I are at the entrance, you guys can go in. Since we're already here, how can we not go in? When Zhang Jiangui heard Gu Xian's words, he knew that Gu Xian thought that he couldn't bring them into Hagi's company. After all, a big company like this didn't allow outsiders to enter. Hey, I know that such a big company doesn't allow outsiders to enter, but since I can bring you all here, I can't let you all wait for us at the door, right? Zhang Jingui's words sounded as if he had something to do with Hoggy Company and even represented Hoggy Company. As soon as Zhang Jingui finished speaking, Guxian's roommate, who was with Zhang Jingui, followed up with a rather proud tone. Guxian, don't you know who Jingui is? His uncle works at Hoggy Company. It's easy for him to bring you all into the company. His words were full of pride. It was as if Zhang Jingui's relative working at Hoggy Company was a great thing. So, can we go in? After Zhang Jingui and the others had bragged in front of her and Guxian, Yunjian said faintly. Hey, I'll ask my uncle to come out and pick us up. Zhang Jingui made a phone call. After a while, a middle-aged man in a suit came out of Hoggy Company and brought everyone into the company. That's my uncle. My uncle is from Hoggy's company. Zhang Jingui wanted to show off his skills as soon as he stepped into the company, but he was interrupted by Zhang Jingui. Just as he was about to brag, a tall figure appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, the tall figure was being escorted by a group of bodyguards. Ah! Isn't that Hoggy Company's CEO, Mayor? Zhang Jingui shouted. Then, he wanted to show off his knowledge in front of Yunjian, so he deliberately coughed twice. After adjusting his state of mind, he continued, this Hoggy Company's CEO, Mayor, is not a simple person. Seeing Mayor pass by in the distance, Zhang Jingui was just bragging to Yunjian when Guxian's voice sounded. It felt like being able to see the CEO of Hoggy Company was a blessing of several lifetimes. However, as soon as Zhang Jingui's exaggerated boasting ended, he saw from the corner of his eye that Yunjian had already stepped out of the door of the interview waiting room. She was almost standing at the door of the meeting room. Zhang Jingui and his group were shocked. Then, with Zhang Jingui taking the lead, he and his uncle rushed to the front and quickly ran up. Then, Zhang Jingui looked at Yunjian and said in a low voice. Chapter 1136. Zhang Jingui and his uncle hurriedly ran in front of Yunjian to stop her. Zhang Jingui even lowered his voice and said to her. The reason he lowered his voice was because he was afraid that the Hoggy Company board members in the meeting room would hear the noise outside and come out to chase them away. If that happened, Zhang Jingui might not even be able to pass the interview. If they disturbed the board meeting, even Zhang Jingui's uncle, who had already become an official employee of Hoggy Company, would probably be fired. Compared to Zhang Jingui and his uncle's exaggerated behavior, Guxian narrowed his eyes slightly and did not stop them. He knew that his sister was not an ordinary person. This was obvious when she admitted that she was the racer SS and knew the witch, the chairman of Rongyao Company. The witch, the chairman of Rongyao Company, who was famous for her racing, actually stopped racing for a few years because of Yunjian and SS. This was the legendary friendship. For a person to do this for another person, it was definitely not something that could be done between strangers. Therefore, Guxian thought that his sister was definitely not an ordinary person. Therefore, he did not stop them and just stood aside and watched. Seeing Zhang Jingui and his uncle standing in front of her, Yunjian frowned slightly in annoyance. Then she raised her eyebrows and said, I can't go in. After hearing Yunjian's words, Zhang Jingui almost shouted at Yunjian. However, because Yunjian was beautiful and he wanted to pursue her, he suppressed the urge to beat Yunjian up. Of course you can't go in. The people sitting here are all the leaders of Hoggy Company. And today's board meeting is personally supported by the chairman of Hoggy Company. If you go in, you'll be screwed. Zhang Jingui suppressed his anger and said to Yunjian. Just as he said this, he was interrupted by Yunjian. Matt is also in there. Matt? Zhang Jingui was stunned when he heard the name. Then, he immediately realized that Matt was the name of the chairman of Hoggy Company. Of course. It's a board meeting today, and it's being presided over by the chairman himself. Zhang Jingui paused for a moment before continuing. That's it. However, they heard Yunjian's red lips curl up. Her slightly raised lips, coupled with her exquisite face, made Zhang Jiangui and the group of men mesmerized. For a moment, they couldn't react. Yun Jian turned her body slightly and bypassed Zhang Jiangui and his uncle who were blocking her way. She reached out her hand and gently placed it on the door handle. Then, she grabbed the door handle and pulled it down. The door creaked, but it didn't open. It was obvious that someone had locked the door. Zhang Jiangui and his uncle were mesmerized by Yun Jian's smile just now. Now that they suddenly saw Yun Jian actually opening the door, the two of them were almost scared out of their wits. However, when they saw Yun Jian open the door, it didn't open because it was locked from the inside. Zhang Jiangui and his uncle heaved a huge sigh of relief. When they came back to their senses, Zhang Jiangui said proudly, "Little girl, this board meeting isn't somewhere you and I can enter. There are many bodyguards inside, and the soundproofing of this room is quite amazing. More importantly, when the board meeting is held, the meeting room will definitely be locked because outsiders can't enter and interfere." Zhang Jiangui just said that he was a member of Hoggy Company and spoke to Yun Jian in the noble and flaunting tone of Hoggy Company. However, he saw Yun Jian take out a small iron wire from her trouser pocket and insert it into the keyhole of the meeting room door. With a click, the door's lock was opened. Zhang Jiangui's words instantly stopped. At this moment, Zhang Jiangui and his uncle, as well as everyone present, were stunned. Chapter 1137. Oh my God! Zhang Jiangui and his uncle, as well as the other two roommates of Gu Xian, were all dumbfounded. Even if she was a professional lock picker, she should first look at the lock and ask what was going on before picking the door, right? How could Yun Jian open the door with a thin wire as if she was performing magic? Oh my God, am I living in a movie? The other two roommates of Gu Xian, one of them who looked quiet but was actually very wild, said in a daze. Everyone present was so stunned by Yun Jian's move that they forgot that they were trying to stop Yun Jian from opening the door of the conference room. However, at this moment, Yun Jian had already opened the door and kicked it in. Her actions were crisp and nimble, not like what a teenage girl should do at all. Yun Jian kicked the door open. Inside the conference room, a long rectangular table was placed in front of them, and both sides of it were filled with the board of directors and major shareholders of Hoggy Company. In front of the large computer screen, which was the seat at the top, sat a middle-aged man who was over 50 years old. This middle-aged foreign man was Mayor's biological father, as well as the chairman of Hoggy Company, Matt. Matt was a successful businessman, but he wasn't a successful father or husband. In terms of business, he could be considered a business genius. He had a smart business mind since he was young, and he had an amazing business mind. He became a talent at a young age. Although the original Hoggy Company had been around for a long time, it had been deteriorating year by year. When it was under Matt's control, Hoggy Company was about to declare bankruptcy. However, under Matt's control, Hoggy Company had developed from a company that was about to declare bankruptcy to a large company that was now one of the top 10 multinational companies in the world. Even Rongyao Company was inferior to Hoggy Company in terms of international status. Matt was undoubtedly the strongest in the business world, and he was the most successful entrepreneur in everyone's eyes. It was also because of this glorious history that the board of directors and major shareholders sitting on both sides of the long table, as well as sitting across from him, were filled with respect for Matt. In the meeting, as long as Matt didn't say anything, they wouldn't move an inch. Ahem. Until Matt coughed softly, then slammed the table and stood up, the board of directors and major shareholders around him were all attentive. I, Matt, have been in the business world for more than 40 years. I, Matt, have been in the business world since I was 8 years old, officially entered the circle at 16 years old, and took over Hoggy Company at 20 years old. I have been the chairman for 30 years now. Rongyao Company is just a junior, do you think I, Matt, can't beat it? Matt stood and slammed the table angrily. His anger could be felt by the board of directors and major shareholders. Chairman, please calm down. Have some water first. One of the shareholders hurriedly poured a glass of water for Maida. just as he was about to pass it over to Maida. Of the... Matt roared even more angrily, drink my ass. Because... All of you, correct your mentality. I'll give you half a year. In half a year, I want Rongyao Company to be under Hagi Company's name. Matt was planning to destroy Rongyao Company in half a year. The board of directors and shareholders present were all impressed by Matt's words. However, at this moment, the door was unlocked from the outside with a click, and a beautiful figure came in. At the same time, the owner of this figure looked straight at Matt, and immediately said without hesitation. Chapter 1138. Not long ago, when she met Mare and Mai and I at Rongyao Company, Yun Jian asked Mare to pass a message to Matt on her behalf. Tell Matt that if he doesn't want to disappear in the annals of history, he'd better behave himself. If he dares to do anything to Rongyao Company again, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death. Yun Jian knew that Mare must have passed this message to his father, Matt. Furthermore, Maida was holding a board of directors meeting here today, and he had even said those words. What did that mean? It meant that he was unrepentant. Yun Jian hadn't broken in just now, and the meeting room was soundproofed. Logically speaking, Yun Jian, who was standing outside the door, shouldn't have been able to hear the sounds in the meeting room. But Yun Jian's ears were sharp. No matter how good the soundproofing was, 1999 wasn't as advanced as the modern era. So, no matter how good the soundproofing was, as long as she listened quietly, she would definitely be able to hear the sounds. Yun Jian heard the sounds just now. That was why she had broken through the door and said those words. Matt, who was standing in front of the board of directors and major shareholders, saw Yun Jian suddenly break in, and his eyelids twitched violently. Who was this little girl who suddenly broke in? Why did he feel like he had heard her say those words somewhere before? Glancing around the room, Yun Jian found that Mare wasn't present. But it didn't matter, because Yun Jian's target wasn't Mare. Matt saw Yun Jian, and his experienced face scrunched up tightly. But with decades of business experience, Matt calmed down quickly. Who are you? Matt looked at Yun Jian and asked with a frown. Matt was different from all the successful businessmen and powerful people that Yun Jian had met before. Matt was a businessman who was truly worthy of respect. Yun Jian admitted that if Matt's ambition was a little smaller and he didn't target her Rongyao Company, she definitely wouldn't be standing here today to deal with Matt. He even admired this old senior from the bottom of his heart. Unfortunately, in the business world, there were no eternal allies. There were only profit-seeking businessmen. He saw with his own eyes that Yun Jian had stepped through the door and talked to the chairman of Hagi Company in such a tone. Zhang Jiangui and his uncle almost wet their pants. The two of them didn't dare to leave, but they didn't dare to stay either. Even Gu Xian's other two roommates were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. You don't need to know who I am. Yun Jian simply crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her beautiful body made people's hearts itch for no reason. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Jian's lazy expression suddenly changed. Her expression became solemn and respectful, and her eyes suddenly reflected a light that made people tremble. In the next second, she said, you just need to know that if Hagi Company dares to touch Rongyao Company, I have the ability to make sure that Hagi Company won't see tomorrow's sun. Maida's aura was enough to make the board of directors and major shareholders revere him with awe and respect. Moreover, in the eyes of the Taoist businessmen, Matt's aura was known to be unyielding. Some people even made a big fuss about Matt's aura, saying that Matt's gaze alone was enough to kill everyone present. But now, Yun Jian was standing at the door. She was just a teenage girl, but the aura she exuded was not inferior to Matt's at all. In terms of aura, Yun Jian's arrogance was even more daunting than Matt's. Dad, is the meeting over yet? Just as the atmosphere became tense, a tall and slender mare suddenly entered the door, surrounded by bodyguards. When Mare saw Yun Jian, he was completely stunned. After a pause, Mare looked at Yun Jian in shock and said, I'm sorry. Chapter 1139. Mayor was stunned when he saw Yunjian. He did not expect Yunjian to be here, so his tone was a little stunned and he blurted it out. His tone was casual as well, but overall, Mayor's shock was written all over his face. "Mayor, what did you say?" Matt was an excellent businessman indeed. He reacted quickly and asked his son with a frown in a relatively shocked tone. In spite of this, Zhang Jianghu and his uncle, Guxian and his two other roommates, as well as the board of directors and major shareholders, were all dumbfounded. This teenage girl before them, a girl who had yet to reach adulthood, she was actually the director of Wuxia Company, one of the top 10 multinational corporations. In terms of status and capability, she was on par with Hoggy Company, the Wuxia Company. You're kidding, right? Guxian, your sister she's the director of Wuxia Company? Zhang Jianghu was stupefied. He stared at Yunjian blankly and asked Guxian in a tone so shocked that he was at a loss for words. His tone, however, was still filled with disbelief. When Zhang Jianghu reached the last part of his sentence, he suddenly recalled something. Right, Guxian had said when he saw Hoggy Company's CEO, Mayor, when he entered the gate earlier. He had said that Hoggy Company's CEO, Mayor, looked familiar. Was he not the guest Yunjian had invited to attend their parents' wedding? Guxian's words were directly refuted by Zhang Jianghu with a sneer. Zhang Jianghu would never believe it even if he saw a ghost. What a joke. Hoggy Company's CEO, Mayor, had gone to Country Z's Longmen City to attend the wedding of Guxian's parents, who came from God knows where. This was like an earthling taking a spaceship to the sun. This was something that was simply impossible to happen. But this time, the CEO of Hoggy Company, Mayor, had admitted it himself. Zhang Jianghu had no choice but to believe it. Therefore, Zhang Jianghu was completely stunned on the spot. At this moment, Zhang Jianghu was so ashamed of his previous behavior that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. In the beginning, he even deliberately showed off Hoggy Company in front of Yunjian and Guxian. Now that he thought about it, his skin was really thick. Showing off in front of the chairman of Wuxia Company was like showing off in front of Tiger that he had caught a baby tiger. Zhang Jianghu and his uncle instantly turned pale. "Chairman, she's the chairman of Wuxia Company." Mayor glanced at his father and spoke in a distant tone. In the company, Mayor had never called Matt father and Matt had always called his son by his first name. Oh my God. The chairman of Wuxia Company is actually a young girl who's still wet behind the ears. This news is too shocking. If this news gets out, it'll definitely be the headline of the international newspapers. Quick, call the reporters over. This news is too shocking. The board of directors and major shareholders took out their phones and tried to call the headquarters of the international press conference. Yunjian had heard the conversation between the board of directors and major shareholders early in the morning. She suddenly raised her hand and tossed it. Dozens of razor blades appeared in Yunjian's hand as she tossed it out. By the time everyone came back to their senses, the dozens of razor blades had already pierced into the rectangular table in front of the board of directors and major shareholders. There was a razor blade in front of each of them, and it was deeply embedded into the table. This exquisite blade-throwing technique made this group of old urchins who only knew business but did not know any martial arts stop in their tracks. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. However, at this moment, Yunjian suddenly spoke. "You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.